Dick the Freelancer, a near-future advertising novel by Jason Marks. 0. My name is Dick, I tell the machine. It asks for my password. I'm the Freelancer, I say out loud, carefully, but naturally. It lets me in as a guest. 1. The road is long. It's scary like Cormac's and classic in the desert vanishing perspective, straightness, and steer skull buzzard sort of way. There's a car with a dented license plate, early 80s, non-denominational on the world of cars like GTA, but still very aware of its oldness and genericness and things of which cars are supposed to be aware. The car is not yet a color. I'm not really sure if anything is a color at this point. Everything is rough, but still I watch it weave across the empty highway going seemingly nowhere, except down this road. And then this car passes a cop, motorcycle cop just like the one everyone knows, his lights up, sirens high, and he pulls onto the empty road, dust kicks up in pursuit. There is a man driving the car. He's old, in an old man style, but not really too old, or maybe he's just had a hard life, or at least a weird one. He's got on green glasses, goggles really, like the professor in Futurama. A drop of blood is frozen right beneath his nostril, approaching but not yet cresting the rim of his lip. The red and blue lights fill his rearview mirror, and he surprisingly, rather unsteadily pulls over. License and registration, please. The cop has his head framed in the window, helmet still on, shades mirrored, the whole bit. Oh, that's not a thing you want now, no. Oh no. The oldish, weirdish laboratory man sort of hisses back at the cop. The cop is about to speak, but a flash of light from the trunk makes him turn his head. The oldish man is unmoved. Oh no, that's not a thing you want, the man hisses. Open the trunk, the cop demands, and heads to the back of the car. The oldish man licks underneath his nose right where the blood meets his lip, and it smears across the top like half a red mustache. He pops the trunk. The cop is standing behind the car, lifting up the trunk as that same light flashes, beyond intensity, a hint of green in its wake, and the world is awash in such brightness it becomes invisible for a beat. For a fraction of a second it feels longer, but feels like the right amount of time for a blinding flash. And then back to the smoking boots, sitting, alone and empty on that empty road. I watch the car driving away, dented license plate, screeching tires, leaving nothing but those smoking boots behind as it heads down the road, deeper into the desert. And up ahead, a giant logo, etched like Crazy Horse into the horizon, words in a brash style, stacked one on top of the other, Mountain Dew. I tap out. 2. Look, I'm the Freelancer. I'm not one to question a reality like this. This felt real enough, but the logo reveal? So I tapped out and turned off the ad, or the rough version of the ad anyway. I was sitting now on the studio couch talking to the editor I'd been working with. What the fuck, dude? I asked the editor. I don't make this shit up, Dick, the editor told me. I just put it together. Sure, but I mean, you were okay with making Mountain Dew into an actual mountain rising up out of the desert? The editor shrugged. It's just the open. It's like a 360 cutscene, basically. I mean, you can look around a little, but it's not gameplay. So this ad agency had just cut a deal with Pepsi and Universal to make a 1980s punk noir cult classic, Repo Man, into a virtual reality game starring, well, Mountain Dew. Which is fine. Again, I'm the Freelancer. I don't really give a fuck about who buys what from whom or who partners with their techno friends to reinvent gladiator battles as diabetes medicine. Great. Sounds cool if you're into that type of situation. But I still don't think anyone wants to see an actual Mountain Dew mountain in the first 60 seconds of an experience. Even a Mountain Dew experience. Even if it is a cutscene. Even if it is a Dew fan experiencing it. Especially if it's a Dew fan. We're gonna have to fix that shit, right? I told him, more than asked. Yeah, Dick, of course. He motioned to his head and asked me if I wanted to go back in and check out another situation in this experience they'd been working on. Sure, I told him, and tapped back in. 3. I'm in the dirty orange smock of Super Deal Market in the Valley. I'm a teenager, a grocery bagger. I have an earring. A cross in my right ear. What the fuck? I feel like that should be the left ear, right? And a cross? Am I a Striper fan? Some people just don't remember shit, right? Or maybe this is right. Whatever. We're stacking cans of generically labeled food, and I'm with a classic pimple-faced, four-eyed stock boy who has a price gun. I look down at my hands. I've got nothing. And he's just tagging away, can after can, price after price. Chick-chang, chick-chang. He's singing as he does it. Being cool, you'll find, is a state of mind, a refreshing attitude. Things get hot. Cool is all you got. Doing it country cool. Give me that. I quickly ripped the price gun out of his hand. And quit fucking singing. It's fucking annoying. The fucks roll off my tongue with a shrill Teenage Valley twang that makes them feel even more bombastic. I wasn't singing, guy, he says to me with his weaselly face, scrunching up into even more weasel. I opt to price his face. I hit him with a price sticker right over the left lens of his glasses. I'm standing right next to you, and you're fucking singing. Cut it out. I'm not sure I would ever say cut it out, or if that is even a phrase from this time, but it came out naturally in this grocery store with the soft muzak and dull white-yellow light beaming down in a zeta wave flicker. Feeling it. Very well done. Why so tense, guy? He says in a ready-made flinch, prepared for another sticker to the face. Otto, it's the store manager. Otto, you were late again today. He just appeared like right out of the corner of my eye, and I turned to face him, the price gun still cocked in my hand. And normally I don't care about such things, but it's been brought to my attention that you're not paying attention. His owlish, horn-rimmed glasses, a Fred Rogers sweater, and a white button-up. He's flanked by a tall Mexican Snoop Dogg-looking dude who's so out of place in a uniform. It looks like he just stole this off someone out back. Might be jacked him up himself on bath salts power-ups or some shit. You're not paying attention to the way you space these cans, the manager says. And I don't mean to do it, but I notice that I have begun pricing each can chick-chang, and then another. Chick-chang. Many young men at your age in these uncertain times, the owlish manager is continuing. Chick-chang. Otto, he interrupts himself. Are you paying attention now? And I see and feel these tiny vibrations in my chest as this Mexican Snoop-looking dude pokes me and says, in like one of the worst Cheech and Chong fucking lowrider accents I've ever heard, Hey man, he's fucking talking to you. I can ignore it. That's an option. But the other option is better. And I do one more chick-chang and then look up at Owl Man right in the eye, and I invoke the timeless classic and light up the room with the power of the almighty fuck you. Fuck you, I tell him with my shrill teenage tongue. It's the weasel. He's chuckling to himself. I grab him by the straps of his orange smock and throw him into a wall of our imperfectly spaced cans. The cans fly across the linoleum bespeckled tile floor. The Mexi Snoop pulls his fucking gun on me. Jesus, seriously? Okay. Options. I can bum rush him, just run the fuck away, or, and I just go with this third one, I grab a random can off of a shelf and huck it at his face. Success. It smacks him above his right eye, and his head cocks back, and his arms raise as he falls back, firing his gun into those white-yellow zeta lights and exploding them into a hard rain of burning glass falling all around us. I find myself talking out loud now in my own voice. Holy fuck, yes! I look down at the can I nailed him with, now spinning amongst the sparkling shower of light, and realize for the first time that it's, yes, Of course. Well done. Mountain Dew. 4. There was a serious buzz in the room. I was back on the couch, looking over at the editor. And then it happened again. Bzzz. The editor tapped an intercom connection. What is it? We're in the middle of a session right now. Is the Freelancer there? I recognized the voice. It was Kuji, executive assistant to Fang Ho, the creative brains behind this place. Oh yes, the editor said, right here in fact. What's up? Well, when you're done, Fang said he would like to see Dick as soon as possible. Got it. Thank you, Kuji, the editor said, signing off. Fang? I always thought it was Mr. Ho, if you're nasty. I'm not that nasty, I told him, but the truth is we go way back. The editor gave me a look of interest, a cocked eyebrow. Like the beginning back, I told him, like all of this. I waved my arms around. We both laughed. 5. I was sailing above the Ziga agency in a glass tube elevator. Looking down on the lobby, the space felt audacious in New York City. But I mean, fuck it. It was serious and in that way cool. And everything was decorated in, or the theme of was, or I would say, well, everything was fucking video. The walls, sure. Abstracts and worldscapes not yet imagined, and visual tricks that made you think you were looking down on a long hall or walking in an M.C. Escher painting. And yes, people have fallen and broken their bones, 2 legs, an ankle, and a wrist, I believe, or I heard. Whatever. But it was more than just a space full of video walls. It got down to the Kleenex box on the studio kitchen counter and a video wrap of Cupids fucking. There were holograms of Alan Turing, who would talk to you while you washed your hands in the water closet, or WC. It was like all the ridiculousness of the capabilities of a place like this were used to impress the fuck out of clients to get them to make an interactive Turing video sculpture for their brand too, or bathroom. I mean, it works. And in reality, it was pretty fucking cool. Back in the day, Fang Ho, now chief video officer and senior partner of the Ziga agency, wasn't up in the glassosphere. He was under moldy ceiling pipes and leaky basement cave tunnels with noodles and black market everything mazes like an early Wong Kar-wai movie, but not Nathan Road in Kowloon. This was Flushing, Queens. That's where Fang started Fangco, which was the back room of one branch of this maze called the Golden Palace Mall, which was under a restaurant, which was under a luxury apartment building that was definitely different than the luxury you might think that word means, but nonetheless relatively expensive and desired and red and gold and all the real Chinatown feels. Fang, as a 13-year-old, had started his own business inside of his dad's business, selling Tupperware. I mean, that's how Fang told me the first time. My dad is a Tupperware salesman, he said. In fact, Mr. Ho had a mini container empire in Flushing, which expanded to College Point eventually. Fang always told me that his dad could never believe a person could make holes and sell them. It was this huge leap of faith for him, like he was free falling the whole time. This strange business he didn't believe in and yet was real enough to feed his family and more. Just make these holes and people will buy them and fill them with their stuff. You make the nothing, they bring the something. That's what Fang told me his dad always said, or something like that. So in the back of this Golden Palace pipe ceiling basement mall, young Fang took the tiniest corner of the tiniest Tupperware store in the tri-state area to edit videos on his juiced up Chinese bootleg PC with pirated editing software, and he went into business. Video editing for all of people's video needs. It turns out, the people weren't individuals as young Fang first imagined, but they were all the businesses, the ones that occupied the luxury building Mr. Hole sold holes under. The owners, who knew his father and wanted to entertain the little Ho, visited the Tupperware shop like you would attend a lemonade stand on your corner. Except these glasses of lemonade worked. Local Flushing TV hungry for sponsors with content and so outside the circle of media and bullshit that swarms mega corporate money, took a shine to these Golden Palace basement mall videos, ran them basically pro bono, and watched all boats rise. Young Feng became like Flushing's marketing genius and maybe, even more importantly, its mascot. "Mr. Ho," I said, walking into Feng's office. He stepped around his video desk and we gave it the palm slap shoulder chest situation. "Mr. Dick," Feng said in return, and he returned to his desk that I sat in front in a floaty chair. I tried not to be distracted by the random video generator behind him, making abstract images in real time out of everything, emitting light in the room. It's supposed to be ambient, but I mean, come on, right? Fuck. Still, kinda cool. Feng looked 25 years old, though close to double that. He was gregarious in a reserved way, always thoughtful or appearing thoughtful. True on the inside or not, it's still a good look. "So the logo is too big?" Feng asked without asking. "Always," I said. "But you can't be worried about that." He gave me a look from the way back, and I didn't even have to say it, or maybe shouldn't. He always told me his father told him only one thing about business. Oh, and that other thing I mentioned about making nothing before, but this one is less abstract. He who talks first loses. So I talked first, because sometimes you need to lose. I continued leaning in, bringing it close. "I mean, I've been the freelancer in this building too many times without a call from you, sir, without seeing your office la mode à temp. So this time, as I rose in the glass tube out of the edit dungeon and up into the fissure, into this beating heart of media up here where the light refreshes you, I realized..." I leaned back in my floaty chair and smiled at Feng. "Nah, man," I said. "When you called, I just figured something was up." "It is," he said. He looked at me for a second, and I was trying to read him, but I couldn't get a handle on exactly where he was coming from. Sad, maybe? Seething? Or just empty? "So, I can guess you and your father-in-law aren't getting along and you're suddenly convinced he might actually be a robot." Jacob Ziga was the owner of this place, the Ziga Agency. Feng Ho was bought out years ago. That makes Feng his partner and his son-in-law. I was trying to loosen him up, keep talking to keep losing. "Yes, kind of that, yes," he said slowly, staring at a 3D video sculpture of a Rubik's Cube solving and unsolving itself above his desk. I knew it. God damn, the old man is a robot. I slapped his desk a couple times to give it all emphasis. "It's not Jacob, Dick. It's my wife." The buzz happened again. I looked around, bewildered, but Feng was unfazed. "Hello, Kuji. What's up?" Feng spoke into the air. "Good afternoon, Mr. Ho." I could hear Kuji's voice fill the room. "It seems that a representative from Mashable would like to speak to you, and BuzzFeed is also on the line. Also, IGN and Twitch have left messages." "Got it. Tell them I'm in a meeting." "I will, and Mr. Ho, I just want you to know I've never seen it." "Thank you, Kuji. Good to know." Feng looked over at me. "It's out now. It was only a matter of time." "What is it, dude?" I asked, knowing he was about to tell me anyway. "Zero. She's in a VR sex tape. Well, it's more of a game, I guess. You can play it. Play her," he said, trailing off. First of all, he was talking about Zero Ziga, the daughter of Jacob Ziga, founder of the Ziga Agency and the wife of her dad's business partner, Feng Ho. Thing is, she had been in a sex tape before, and it proved to be a fake. So I didn't gasp in awe or anything. She's actually the queen, I guess princess technically, of advertising. She has a few enemies, but this was intriguing, just that sex tapes had come so far. Technology, you crazy motherfucker. and she fucks the Burger King, or you are the Burger King and get to fuck her, or I don't know exactly, I haven't seen it, played it. He trailed off again. I had a hard time not laughing. I mean, it's, well, funny in a way. Zero, in one of her first projects for her dad, worked with a crazy Brazilian creative named Lucas Ray, and they came up with the Burger King as this crude AI bot persona that people went gaga over. Or at least some people in advertising did. It was the first of its kind. Now you can actually be the king, or kill the king in Warcraft or Minecraft, or collect the king as a cryptocurrency, and certainly fuck the king, though not a licensed BK fuck. But to be the king in a well-done virtual space, and get to fuck your creator, who also happens to be a big media marketing personality, well, that's a rich tapestry, a deep experience indeed. And for the industry insider, it puts a lot of backroom laughter and bullshit on the table. But the pop culture Blade Runner fanboy crossover begins to be a whole other thing. A big thing, at that. Do you think Luke did it? I meant Lucas Ray, the creator and still owner of the Burger King brand. It's the first thing that came to mind. Maybe, Fang said. He has all the files, the work, the structures. I hear it's good. Really good. Feels right. It's not a hack. So yeah, Luke came to mind. When that first tape came out of Zero and Luke, they had been working together on making the Burger King a huge hit. The tape seemed very fucking real. Everyone thought it was real, and the technology wasn't totally there to say it was fake. But they did. They said it wasn't them. It was digitally composited. It was hard to argue with some of the very best in the field, and no one really cared because it did look real enough to just go ahead and believe if you wanted to, so who cares? What made it even more suspicious is that Lucas Ray left. He stopped working for Jacob and with Zero and somehow walked away with Burger King and started his own agency, Crown. Why would a fake video cause one of the most successful duos in addom to break up? Not to mention, let one of the biggest clients in the game walk out the door. I was there at the Zigga agency, and a junior writer with a junior art director partner, it didn't make sense to us, but everyone involved went along with it and we all just sort of let it ride. Although, almost immediately, they became the industry's undoubted but unspoken arch enemies. What would he have to gain? How would Crown win from this? I asked. You know Luke. Has he ever done anything for gain? Sometimes it works out that way, but that guy just does pranks. He's an elaborate prank guy. And this is an elaborate prank. True. Yep, I can certainly see Luke doing it. You're right about that. But did he? Find out, Dick. I need you to find out, Fang said, looking at me, dead serious. Yeah, man. Okay, I'm not a private eye. You're the freelancer. Fang interrupts me. You know all these people. You can easily slip from one agency to the next. You're non-denominational. You don't have the baggage that I do, and you know all this stuff. You can tell what's real and who did what. It was strange to me how much Fang was not kidding, but I like Fang. When Lucas Ray left, Jacob almost immediately reached out to this video whiz kid from Flushing and bought his company, made him a solid part of the Zigga agency, and we did a lot of work together, made a lot of videos, projections, holograms, and I guess now 3D worlds together, although he doesn't do that so much anymore. So we're old friends. That's not easy to come by. You only get a few. So you want me to go talk to Luke, stop by Crown and see what the fuck is going on? I asked with a big smile on my face, having fun with this whole situation, although I knew Fang was not. Yes, I do, Fang said, and I can pay you. Aw, man, come on, it's not like that. It is for this. I'll have Kuji draw something up. Man, Fang, dude, this is not... And you're going to need this, he said, holding out a chip in his hand for me to take. It was unmarked, but I knew what it was. Take it, he said. How else will you know? So I took Zero's sex tape from Fang and realized I had to watch it, play it, tap into it. 6. First, I had to head over to Crown and see Lucas Ray. And before that, or I guess maybe because it was on the way, I needed to see my old partner. She knew Luke, and Fang, and Zero, and she was way smarter than me. She might have a few words of advice before I go charging into Lucas Ray's office, the president and founder and creative chief of Crown, and accuse him of making a sex tape once again. Or maybe I just wanted an excuse to see her, another old friend. I got on the ferry from the east side of Manhattan to take to the Navy Yard in Brooklyn. Like most major cities, the Navy Yard was no longer waterfront property owned by the government, but a land rush for contractors and movie studios, independent manufacturers, and urban weed farmers. And if you were super fucking smart and got in early enough and wrangled enough of the right people, you got yourself a giant warehouse space to start a non-profit marketing agency that helped the world be a better place and cost you, in the end, nothing. The latter would be my partner from the early days at Zigga, Sophia Rule, who went on to do just that. She's a baller. She took the business and figured out a way to make it do what she wanted, which was essentially just fucking help people, and all earnestly and shit too. Yeah, I know. Borderline annoying. I would say, as a freelancer, I am almost exactly the opposite of that, which is, I have to admit, also annoying. I did know my way around the ferry from an earlier commute, before they shut the L down and Williamsburg hordes crammed the ferry like Syrian refugees. Too soon? Fuck. Yeah, too soon. Try again. They crammed the ferries like rats escaping the subway during a flood. But the L is back now. Williamsburg is annoying again, and you can actually take the ferry. And if you know what you're doing, and it's a nice day, you scramble to the top first and get along the rail on the Manhattan side, and watch the sunset behind the skyline and ancient smokestacks of Con Ed between the Empire and One World, gliding along the East River, under the bridges, over the tunnels, taking the oldest form of transportation and cutting right through all the technologies that came after. And you get up there on the railing, scooching forward, closer to the front by the captain's bridge so people don't mess with your moment. And you just look out at all that world city splendor and, well, think, how can Sophia help me? She's smart, but is she gonna know or care anything about this sex tape? We were all friends once. Sophia and I were partners who just got started working for the Zigga agency, and mainly for a crazy Brazilian creative who already had a reputation before he even started working for Jacob Zigga. That, of course, would be Lucas. He was also partnered with Jacob's daughter, Zero, who had really just started working there when the first sex tape of the two of them came out, and everyone sort of freaked out. They denied it. They said it was fake. Some tests were run on it, and it was determined to be a fake. But man, for the time, it sure looked real. And memes were made and spread, and all the sleazy, gossipy ad blogs got involved, and some of the legit ones as well. There was even an article in the New York Times and a mention in the WSJ, and I guess once everyone in the industry, and quite a few outside of it, had seen these two partners having real and quite hardcore sex together, it sort of ended the relationship. We were there, Sophia and I, and she'll remember all this too, maybe differently. If breaking up as partners after a sex tape wasn't strange, then letting Lucas Ray leave with the prized client, Burger King, certainly was. That seemed to really sever ties between all parties quickly, but no one sued or anything. It was all agreed and done. We kept our heads down, Sophia and I, and just did good work. Soon after, Jacob buys Fangco from one Fang Ho in Flushing, Queens, and promises to move him into a giant glass megastructure he's building near the United Nations. Fang takes the money, folds Fangco, joins the Zigga agency as chief video officer, and Sophia and I start working with him right away. And Zero became his partner, and then his lover, and we all became friends, and we made really cool work together. Sophia would know all of this and could help me put this in context. Sure, Luke and Zero are creative enemies, and everyone has seen them have sex or not have sex really, or whatever. And Fang, although never the jealous type or outwardly competitive, should have an emotional stake in there somewhere. Would Luke try to fuck with Fang for some reason? Is there a professional agenda, personal vendetta, or an outside force maybe just going for it for fun? There are a lot of pissed off editors and videographers and actors that were used against their will, so to speak. But they might have one piece, but can't put together a whole production at this level and budget. It's a lot of work to make an interactive experience people can literally put themselves into. And you have to really want to fuck with somebody to undertake it. Time, money, there are only a few human emotions that make us give up those things. The ferry bumped into the dock and jolted me out of my past. I ran down the stairs and off of the new landing at the Navy Yard. It was so populated and shoppy at this point. It should have another mall-like name, Vintage Fair or Westgate Center, and I was absolutely certain it did, but everyone that I know called it the Navy Yard. I wasn't sure I'd accomplished much other than a summary on that ferry ride, but I was also absolutely certain that Sophia would know what the fuck to do. 7. Lucas Ray did not do it, Sophia said. That's dumb. She already knew about Zero's new sex tape, so I didn't have to explain much. We were walking through the Navy Yard. The sun was starting to set and turn the city into a perfect silhouette of itself. And she was already calling me dumb. Or at least my ideas. Okay, I sort of laughed. I mean, doesn't he make the most sense? He and Zero, Fang? How petty do you think people are? Sophia asked, looking at me with her solid and endless brown eyes. She's so fucking cool. Or that's what I was thinking right then. Trick question? I don't do trick questions, Dick. Pretty fucking petty, the most petty, motherfucking Tom Petty. People are Tom Petty. That's how petty. She laughed. I was relieved. Okay, Dick, people are Tom Petty. Sophia looked at me again and said more serious this time. I still don't think Luke did it, or had it done, or was anywhere near it. There were pigeons flying with LED lights on them. They were up above the Navy Yard making patterns, doing pigeon stuff, but with tiny lights wrapped around their little bird ankles as if on parole. It was being directed from a giant pigeon boat, docked at the yard. People were cheering across from a row of bleachers. Woo! Yeah, I don't like birds. But we stopped to watch for a second. I looked at Sophia as she looked up at the lit up pigeons, the way she was taking everything in, not just looking, sort of feeling it, thinking it, seeing it for what it is and what it isn't, all in an instant and all just in her being really special. This person. They can't sleep! They can't sleep! A woman was standing in front of us. She had a stuffed bloody pigeon in her hair and was holding a sign that read, "Your art is murder." Huh, sweet. She continued, "They don't naturally fly at dusk. It throws off their whole system. They get lost. They die. You're killing them just by watching." Good. I hate birds, I told her, and it's true. I believe they are ancient evil. Because they could fly, they never developed compassion as a means of survival. They are just too cold. The way their heads bob, the emptiness of their eyes. They are just creatures like us, and we're torturing them for our pleasure. The woman basically spat the last sentence in my face. Sophia spoke up, looked at the lady calmly, and said rather flatly, "There are some human beings in a park 2 blocks up. They're pretty hungry. Maybe you could spend some of the time and money you spent on your sign and this," she pointed to the bloody stuffed pigeon in her hair, "and get them something to eat." The woman stopped for a moment, frozen in a protest vortex, a hierarchy of help, a compassion-anxiety attack. I guess perhaps those ancient evil birds would never have a problem like this. Sophia said softly and kindly to the woman, "After those human creatures have full bellies, we'll take care of these guys next, huh?" She pointed up to the birds who were making 3 floating light diamonds in the air, but some kept roaming off, so they were like ephemeral diamonds, not quite diamonds, shape-shifting in the dusk sky above the bustling Navy Yard. The woman smiled a bit and said, well, sort of mumbled, "Thank you," and walked off with a renewed spirit. Jesus. This Sophia chick is a bit too much. "Hey, I have this spot, couple blocks. It's kind of a secret, but not really at all. Just let me think it is, okay?" Of course, I said, which I probably would have said to anything she had said at that time. It's the best spot in the city to watch the sun go down, she told me, looking right at me. I believe you, I said, and I did. 8. Sophia and I were in love at one point, of course. It was those early days at Zigga. We were partners. We started to become more, not because we were like crazy hot for each other or just needed to satisfy some boy-girl creative partner late night work session urges. We just started to really like each other, to make each other laugh, to help each other out with work or even just life shit, whatever. And then once work ended, we didn't want to stop being together and we kissed in the back of a cab one night. I don't remember who initiated it. We both did, and that was it. We were inseparable after that. Working, kissing, talking, fucking, dancing. Before the party, after the party, the whole time really, and hanging out with our bosses at the time, Zero and Fang. We had a lot of fun. Neither of us had anyone else or thought about anyone else. It seemed like maybe they were all just Truman Show actors, allowing us to have the world to ourselves. It was just each other then, and now we don't even have that. So we climbed up to the crow's nest in the pirate ship park on the Dumbo waterfront. Most of the kids had cleared out as it was getting dark. Nannies and stay-at-home dads were wrangling the last stragglers and carting them off to their Range Rovers parked up 2 blocks on Front Street. And Sophia was right, it was sort of secret, left behind by the kids, unrecognized by the adults. It gets a few minutes each day where it disappears from our collective minds and becomes a personal world for anyone who can see through the collective, who can spot the existence of a space outside reality that others aren't prepared to see. The metal rails encircled us, the Jolly Roger whipping the wind a bit and beaming down his bony smile. The crow's nest was meant for children, so it kept us close, an oversized feeling as we looked out over the Manhattan and Brooklyn bridges, the financial district, outlined by the purple sun against their dark, dense, square masses. So close to the water's edge, it felt as if the East River rose an inch, it would wipe out all the servers in those algorithmic basements, crunching risk into formulas and assigning value to valueless things that are only a packet of security in an insecure world. The financial district, is that right? Probably not, now that currency is anything that can't be reproduced in the age of mechanical reproduction. I have to get out of here, Sophia said, out towards the city. New York? Sure, yes, geographically yes, but more than that, you know. She looked over at me. The industry, the work, the fucking clients, all these people. Is this the thing? Is this it? I started to laugh a little bit. We had this conversation before, in one form or another, and it's not that I thought she was being funny. I knew she was dead serious, but I wasn't laughing at her statement. I was laughing at the absurdity of what she was saying, the truth of it, the reality. I was laughing in that way that frees yourself from the almost certain doom all around you. Dark, I know, but sometimes that's the way it is. At least that's what I thought she was feeling right then. But you were like the Mother Teresa of advertising. You take all that corporate money, you take a decent chunk of those budgets and do good with it. If you're fucked, then we're all definitely fucked. I don't think I've ever made anything that actually helped a person, besides help them make money. It's still advertising, she said. Didn't you just put 1 million 3D printers in Africa or some shit? 10,000, she said. But that's across the continent in tiny villages without access to healthcare. You made them all arms and legs, right? Yes, they can get prosthetics, and for some kids, it ends their chances of getting around, of being able to go to school, to get a job. Sounds like it's helping, I said. But that's an ad too. Even the helping. I look around and half of ads all have one-legged kids with prosthetics in them now, living better one step at a time, or always moving forward, or you know all this. You probably wrote some of those lines. She's right, and she was making me a little sad now. The kids still get a leg, right? They can walk, no? Who cares if a photographer flies to their village and they end up on a billboard in Times Square for BlackRock? Who cares? They can walk, Sophia. I was trying to sound as sincere as I could muster. I didn't want this one getting jaded on me. She was the only one I knew that just might be doing it right. Don't you get sick of it, Dick? This time, I did laugh at what she was saying. Wow, you know I'm a freelancer, Sophia. That means I started this game sick of it. I've been sick of it the whole time. That's the thing. That's my thing. I'm sick of it. Don't take that from me, Fifi. It's all I got. I smiled at her, an old smile, one that she would remember from time spent together. Fuck you, she said, and it was all good again. Yes, fuck me for sure, I continued, still trying to get to something with her, something I didn't feel like I had found out yet. So tell me something, Sophia. The sun had dipped down. The lights in the windows and all the towers in Manhattan were starting to come on, to sparkle. I gripped the metal railing of the crow's nest and leaned over to her, looking her in the eye. Why don't you really think it was Lucas Ray that made the new sex tape, Burger King, 0? It adds up. She looks back at me. Because I've seen it. Hey now. Didn't know you were into virtual sex. She ignored me. It's too good. The sex? The tape. The Burger King 0 sex tape is too good. I've never experienced anything like it. I didn't know it was even possible to get there yet. What? It's insane. Lucas Ray, we fucking know him, Dick. Even though he's global creative officer and chairman/dictator of Crown, even with all the Burger King renders and all the computing power that his agency can output, he couldn't have created this. It's way beyond him. Okay. Wow. If it's that good, then it can only be a few people in the world that could pull it off. Who is it? I asked her, feeling a little excited by all this. I have no idea, she said, deadpan, hiding what was beyond, thinking about what she had experienced, but a few levels deeper, a few moves ahead. What would it all mean? She turned away from the city, facing me directly. But you came to me for advice, right? Yeah, I guess I'm that transparent. Not every single day, just this one, she said with a slight smile. So here's my advice. Don't go bursting into Luke's office until you have seen the tape, until you've played it, tapped into it. Okay, sure. Tape first, Dick. It will change how you deal with Luke, she told me. I believed her. She's smarter than me, but I'm smart enough to know that, and sometimes that's all the smart you need. It was dark now in the crow's nest. The purple and orange and red streaming between the buildings were all gone now, leaving only night. I thanked Sophia, and we stood awkwardly and fumbled with our hands for a moment. I held on to her finger, and our hands were suspended, connected between us. I looked at her, and she looked at me, and we threw away the layers that 10 years leaves between you for a couple breaths. And then I let go of her fingers, and our hands fell to our sides. We dropped our heads, looking down at the corrugated playground metal, those crisscrossing stitches raised up for grip, so kids don't slip and hurt themselves when they're up there having fun. 9. I was inside the Burger King once before, but this is way fucking different. This isn't like being inside a mascot looking through eye holes and hearing your own breath echo inside the hollow head. This is I seeing the body electric shit. I feel connected, not so much inside as integrated throughout. And it has a buzz, a strange hum that maybe is the connection. Everything feels a bit tinny, like the taste of LSD or the sound of a bad Bluetooth pairing. But as I look down at my arms and feel the puffy white cuffs around my wrists and the royal ringage of QSR lineage firm and slightly cold around my electric fingers, I am undoubtedly the motherfucking Burger King himself, seamless in his Nero skin. The room is unnaturally dark, a studio of some sort. I was on the periphery of it, heading towards a small wooden table in the middle of the room. 2 chairs sat across from each other, empty. It looks like the old Charlie Rose studio, like I'm about to be interviewed, or I, the Burger King, am about to be interviewed. I feel compelled to sit down. It's not an unnatural feeling, but somehow isn't mine. I sit down. The table is lit by a soft sort of radiant light, and a figure comes out of the darkness from the other side of the studio, and it's, yes, Zero Zigga. She looks amazing and has this sort of fierce way about her that she has always pulled off better than most without trying. but still conscious of its effect and how and when to use such a presence. And it feels strange to me, or the Burger King, or both of us, because I or we have never felt such a human feeling inside a virtual world. Even the best AR in the real world doesn't have those feelings. You have to bring those yourself, not this one. It exists in the room, emanating from Zero. And it's starting to freak me out. I look down at my hands again, the rings, the cuffs. I'm not sure I can talk. Dick, Zero says, I have to tell you something. And I realize there is something about her hair and her dress. When she bats her eyes at me, she's not being coy at all. She never was. And I hear music that is so familiar, from a thing, from a memory, a feeling. The Kings, perhaps? Dick, Zero tells me. Remember France? Yes, we all do. We were in advertising together. We went to Cannes almost every year. If this were an inside joke on Fang or Zero or Lucas, it wouldn't be strange to mention France or Cannes. But there was something about her approach, the way she came into the room, the sound of her voice, because besides all of the reasons I should remember France, I remember it because of you. So fucking yes, Zero. Of course I remember France. And I look at my cuffs and my rings, and I look right at Zero, and I can't talk. And that music, it's club music. It's French club music, which is probably Finnish EDM from it's from that night. It's from our night, and her fucking hair and her dress, and it's all from that night. And I hear the bustle of people and the pop of a giant bottle of fucking rosé, and I see the darkness start to come to life around that room. In that studio, it becomes tables and rows of fucking advertising people laughing and carrying on like a fin de cyclette. In an end of the world party happening to me right now, dressed as the motherfucking Burger King. And she looked right fucking into me like she always could, and I did my best to stare back at her, to break through the king and be myself for this amazing instant. And she said, you do remember, don't you, Dick? Zero, is that you? I scream out loud. I think it should matter. Are you in here? Are you in this thing, this game? I stand up and put my hands on the table. The noise of the lobby, of the Carlton it is, in Cannes, in France. It started to envelop us, the advertising part, in the south of France, taking over the darkness from the Charlie Rose studio, starting to give up now. Zero stood up too and took me by the hand. Zero, I said, quieter this time, trying to stare into her eyes. Zero, where are you taking me? It's exactly what I asked her that first night, that first time we were together, and I ask her again, as the king this time, or are we one and the same now? But she says nothing. She is just silently taking me away into the party, into the night, right now, that became our night once, a long time ago. And I feel myself slipping, just going with her, just letting her take me away. But it feels like I'll never come back. Do I have a choice? This is it? I'm fucking scared. Zero! No, wait! I scream as loud as I can, but she can't hear me. I drop her hand and watch her disappear into the party. The darkness starts to come back as I realize, finally, the reality of this game. The Burger King does not speak. Fuck this. I tap out. 10. Zero died a long time ago. Lucas Ray said to me from the rooftop of his agency in Industry City. It was something about the way he said it, though. Something about his demeanor that made me come unstuck in time, to sort of drift around the nexus where so many things were possible. Had Zero really died a long time ago? That night in Cannes? She's dead, Lucas said again. Dead, 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 dead. Zero is dead. I had called Lucas earlier that morning. Sophia had given me his direct access. They had done some charity work together, helping people and stuff. Prosthetics, whatever it took. I used the direct access and just cold called Luke, but he was more than gracious. I felt like he probably knew I wanted to talk about the sex tape, but he didn't let on. I just told him I wanted to check in, see if he had anything he needed me to corral for him. Projects to take care of, freelance work. Just wanted to say hi. That was never really just a hi. Easy to do when you're the freelancer, as Feng had said. Yet I hadn't gone to Crown to do any work in a decade or so. it would be an unusual request at best. I think because it had been so long, Lucas Ray wanted to show off. I knew he had some interesting things afoot. Crown had just moved offices, and then, strangely enough, I heard he had bought a giant piece of property that was, well, not that long ago, Fresh Kill's landfill. Once the largest dump on the planet, now, apparently, as they have told New Yorkers, reclaimed back to a state of nature. Whatever the fuck, I was going to let Lucas show off and see if during the course of unveiling the new portfolio of his new media empire, I was going to see what he knew. It was all too close not to know something that might help Fang on his search to figure out who created this sex tape situation. But now he had made me come unstuck in time, not Vonnegution in its random appearances, but in the way that time was a choice, a array of possibilities, not a series of non-chronological events, if that makes any sense. Looking down these rays of possibilities, why did Lucas keep saying that? What the fuck? Was Zero dead? Holy jeez, man. Fucking hell. Did you see a fucking ghost, man? Lucas Ray laughed at me. What is wrong with you, man? You are sick or something. Wow. Luke continued to laugh a little. I shook myself back to the rooftop, got back into this time. Standing at a helipad, looking out over Brooklyn, downtown, and up past the Navy Yard and onto Williamsburg, Greenpoint, LIC, and straight out from us, Governor's Island, Lower Manhattan, swinging left, Lady Liberty, and then even further, swinging all the way around the Verrazano Bridge. It grounded me, popped me back into place, and I realized Zero wasn't dead. As I was saying, my friend, for me, for Lucas Ray, Zero Ziga died a long time ago. I don't concern myself with the silly things she does anymore. So very silly! Very, 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 very silly, Dick. I have no use for them, and neither have you, yes? I shrug a little. Lucas looks at me. Oh no, man, don't tell me you've tapped into this sex tape, man. Oh no, man. Oh, man. You are too much. No, man. He is berating me in his jovial, semi-Brazilian-ish bombast. It's good-natured, but also has an edge to it. He seems actually disappointed in me. Why? Why would he care? I wasn't even going to mention this thing, and now he's already called my bluff. Sophia might have given me the right advice, but I wasn't using it well. The experience had shaken me, more than prepared me. I've been working with Feng's people on this Mountain Dew Repo Man experience. I figured I would give him some truth and see how that works for a minute. Lucas shook his head no. I know it, of course, he says. I love the Repo Man. Do not get me wrong, but this is shit. Complete shit. Yeah, sure. Regardless, I was at Zigga working on it, and Feng called me into his office and told me all about this thing and that I had to watch it. I told him with a hint of exasperation. Feng thinks I did it? Lucas asks, turning his head out to sea, windward, lifting his shoulder-length hair in the breeze with a fair amount of natural majesty. Sophia used to call him tall and pretty, like a 70s shampoo ad, because he was definitely like that, but she didn't mean it to be funny. Feng doesn't really know what to think, Luke, I said. He just wanted to see if I could find out. Because you are the freelancer, no? He spaced out the words in a strange way. He turned to me, smiling, having some fun with this, I thought. Because you have no allegiance either way, and maybe you could use our old friendship and get me to what? Confess? He does a snort of sorts, indignation or some porno acting land version of it. Lucas, I'm just saying hi, dude. Sure, man. Yes, 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 yes. We are old friends, man. I already told you this. Zero is dead. Dead. I don't care, man. It's nothing to me. Nothing at all. Zero is nothing. It's hard not to notice how many times he's actually said this out loud. But he continues undaunted. I didn't bring you here for this stupid tape, the return of the sex tape. Really, my friend? You fell for the second one too? Part 2. He puts his hand on my shoulder and extends his hand out, north, towards the rest of Brooklyn crawling up the East River. You know why I brought you here? Fuck, Lucas. I wish you'd tell me, I told him, loosening up a little myself. I wanted to show you something, he said. You know, we just moved into this space here, Industry City, not up there. He was pointing up to Williamsburg. Was I going to move my new media empire into a shitty factory next to Vice for 1 billion times what it's worth? The Titty and Coke magazine that stuck a toe in the DMZ and called itself news was going to price me out of my neighborhood. No fucking way, man. I had to laugh. I felt like he was just getting warmed up. He pointed over a bit. Fucking Bushwick, man. Dick, do not fuck me and tell me it's raining. That whole neighborhood is made out of paper mache, man. Fucking paper. Those buildings were made to fall down on all the poor people who used to live in them. Now it's going to fall on the dumb rich ones. Then they can level the entire thing and start over. Call me when this one happens, yes? Maybe we move there then. Greenpoint is for the toxic Avenger, man, he said. I think referring to the movie and the fact that Greenpoint is built on one of the greatest toxic sites in urban America. And the Navy Yard is for all the fucking art hippies that New York can steal for money. They're stealing from the fucking hippies, man. Come on, please. I mean, fuck the hippies. But I'm not doing Navy Yard art and bullshit for nothing. To shout to the mountaintops, what is that? An echo? He asks himself, holding his hand to his ear. What is that? He whispers it this time. It's nothing, Dick. It's nothing coming from there. Nothing, 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 nothing. It reminds me of all the artists back in Sao Paulo, so nothing. I thought you were from Houston, I asked. Many lifetimes, my friend, many lifetimes. He looked whimsical, aloof almost, but no one really believed that. He was from Texas. His parents were big energy executives doing some Brazilian energy trading, I guess. The word is that Lucas had only been to Brazil for an award show in Rio like 5 years ago. Okay, Luke, I'll bite. Why Industry City? The edge of Brooklyn, the old docks. Because it's new. Because it doesn't reek of the old world bullshit, trying to make everything old new again. Fuck that man. He started to caress the side of a utility shed that was built on the roof. It had a greenish stucco-like texture to it. This is made of cinnamon, he said. Galvanized cinnamon and seaweed at the exact right temperature, my friend. It becomes a building, and it tastes like motherfucking cinnamon and seaweed. Like fucking cinnamon fish food. Dick, the building tastes like fish food. Taste it, Dick. Taste it, man. Ah, man. Come on, man. He's yelling at me now. He keeps licking his fingers and wiping along the green stucco rooftop and then sticking them in his mouth. Man, it's fucking cardamom. I always get those confused. I tried to not taste the building, to distract him. Isn't this right above an ABC Home and Carpet? Man, I had to fist fuck the CEO of ABC motherfucking Home and Carpet in the ass, mind you, to get this place on top of the newest building in Industry City. This is no lie. I kind of like Lucas. That's the truth. I always have. Well, he said, it was my assistant. He did the fist fucking. He loves these things. He's very good. Very, 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 very good, so they say. Anyway, my friend, none of this is why I covet this place like the wrath of Con Man burns for the Star Trek. I want to tell you why I fist-fucked my way to Industry City. He grabbed me by the arms, both of my arms in a tight squeeze, as a heavy wind seemed to descend on us. Not like a swirling wind, but a focused, powerful force that wanted to lift you off the ground just by its invisible presence. Look up, Dick! Lucas yelled at me. It was a giant box. It looked like the size of 4 refrigerator boxes, but space age. Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator here in Brooklyn, on top of an ad agency, which was on top of an ABC Home and Carpet, with a giant box descending on us, about to, I guess, suck us up? Then it did, and the bottom closed. And we were sitting safe, warm, and all of a sudden my fear was gone. I felt comfortable at home even as the city fell away beneath us as we rose at an alarming rate, and I began feeling nothing. We zoomed out over the water, ships and bridges, and Lady Liberty herself gave us a wink as we flew over. "Dude, Lucas," I said, looking over across from him, feeling like we were in a stagecoach from the Jetsons. "Where the fuck are we going?" "Shaolin, my friend." Lucas was showing off now, just as I thought, and maybe as Sophia wanted me to do, or see, or something. I felt like I had made the right decision suddenly. "I fucking hate virtual everything," Lucas said, still soaring in a box on a viciously direct path to Staten Island. "I'm done. This is why I haven't seen the sex tape. Or why I didn't make the sex tape. Or fucking care, my friend. Because I don't make that shit anymore. Shit," he said. "It's all complete shit." "You haven't seen the tape?" I asked. "No, my friend. Not 1 second of my time have I spent on these things. Not even for a few virtual seconds of time with a woman. Maybe, my friend, maybe the only woman I have ever loved. Ever. 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 Ever." Of course he loved Zero. Maybe we all did, and that was why this was all so jacked up right now. "So what are you going to show me in Shaolin that I've somehow been missing at every other studio and agency and vendor in town?" I was just trying to get to something at this point. It quickly felt a little more like kidnapping and a little less like showing off. Yes, my friend, my very smart friend. You were always one of my favorites, one of the best. I'm not sure why you gave up, Dick." "I didn't give up, Lucas," I told him, still flying in this invisibly supported tram car. "I went freelance." "I see," Lucas Ray said. He leaned across the box we were flying in, like a small train car, bench to bench, eye to eye. "You didn't give up. You just chose the wrong path. The virtual one. Because what I'm going to show you, in the once untamable world of a holy fucking mountain of trash, is what technology can actually produce, my friend. The only thing technology can produce that means anything at all." Jesus, God, fuck me, Luke. What is it? I did not feign this exasperation. "Reality," he said. 11. "Google gave it to me," Lucas had eventually explained. The box thing we were picked up in and quickly translated from the shores of Brooklyn to the fresh kills of Staten Island. Google had given it to Crown for an experience they had created for them for an executive retreat. And it really was a tram, a sort of Bluetooth tram that speeds along an invisible Bluetooth-like connection cable and can go from A to B without fail. It's a Google prototype, so governments, a few drug lords, everyone in Silicon Valley, and now Lucas Ray, all were using some version of it to get from one of their very important A's as quickly as possible to the very, very important B's, as we had just done, or so Lucas had explained. "See that thing there, my friend?" Lucas was pointing to like a giant square. I mean, giant, like 10 football field square, but in the air, like if you took the Hadron Collider and lifted it out of the ground on one of its sides, and if that oval were actually square, and that thing were up in the air, like you could fly the Aces High Spitfires from the Iron Maiden song of WWII fame right through it. A lot of planes. It was huge. Metaphor huge. Not doing it justice. "That's my 3D printer," Lucas said, looking over at me. We were on a tarmac, helipad situation at the bottom of what looked like the world's biggest quarry. The giant printer square thing was off in the distance, but close enough or big enough to feel looming. People were running around near us, prepping the Google Box tram thing for another ride, I guess. Pretty fucking cool, man. Huh? It's cool, yes? I mean, yes, dude, yes. Fuck yes. That's pretty cool. Yes, Luke, I said, sort of yelling for some reason, because of just the space, I think. Although there was no unusual sound or noise other than people just doing stuff. Transportation has become silent, I thought. It's pretty fucking cool. It can print a Disney castle in 6 seconds. An Orlando one, not that LA bullshit. He looked at me and made his eyes really big like Johnny Depp in a shitty Tim Burton movie. Honestly, he said, whispering, it's 6.7 seconds. But I ran down. He slapped me on the back, speaking loudly again. He said, and you love this about me, right? Yes? Yes. A small swarm of people sort of surrounded him quickly, assistants and hangers-on or whatever. I wasn't sure. But he was engaged with them for the moment, and I was closed out like the opposing team around a huddle. I took in the enormity of this property Lucas had bought for himself, and well, it had to have been with the help of partners. I can't imagine Google doesn't own that city-sized 3D printer and just sort of lets Lucas run it and take their protobox back and forth to it. Fine. Cool. Partners. Excuse me, an old-timer said, dragging along with him what looked like a big cord with a plug on the end. I mean, an old-school looking one, a replica like we were in the back lot. It felt like a joke, a prop man preparing SNL between commercials. Excuse me, the old-timer said. He was dressed in overalls, had a train engineer's hat on or some shit. I realized I was standing on this painted circle like a designated situation on the tarmac, just to the side of the Lucas huddle. I need to get in there, the old-timer said. I had no idea what was going on. I stepped to the side, outside the circle on the ground. It suddenly opened up, and I saw that it was a giant socket. 3 slats, waiting for prongs. The old-timer huffed a little and dragged the big plug over and sort of got it close, and I watched like magnets take over and rip the socket out of his steady hands, and he let it go like he had done it 1 trillion times, and sure enough, it snapped right into place, and he looked up at me and he said, "Thank you." "Thank you," I told him. "But can I ask you what the fuck just happened?" I looked at him, the old-timer, standing on this ginormous 3D printer tarmac quarry space that was once a giant mountain of trash. Had to plug it back in. He shrugged a bit and then pointed his thumb back over his shoulder to the Google tram box we had flown over in. And indeed, the cord went back towards and disappeared into a circle, much like this one, right next to the box landing area. Cool? I asked, I think, just sort of perplexed by the situation. "You always have to plug it back in," the old-timer said, adjusting his engineer's hat. "That never stops. Don't matter the contraption." Huh? I didn't so much ask this time as wonder aloud. "You can increase the distance and maybe even the time between the plug-ins, but it's all going back in," he said, matter of fact. "I guess that's true," I told him. "You could even make it seem like you could spend an entire life without having to plug back in." He chuckled to himself. I leaned in. "But you can't. It just seems that way. Always have to plug it back in." "I guess you're right," I said, clearly not very clear on anything. "Of course I'm right," the old-timer said. "It's what I do for a living. I plug things back in." He smiled at me kindly, knowingly. Lucas's small huddle broke up when he came over to me, and the old-timer had totally disappeared. But the plug was sitting, silently, plugged into the tarmac so the Google tram box could fly again. "Let's fucking do this," Lucas said to me. "I have things for you to see." He grabbed me by both arms, almost lifting me into the air, maybe, actually, like my tiptoes were barely on the ground. "It's going to be awesome," he said. 12. There was a giant wall before us. It rose out of the newly eco-minted Fresh Kills landfill earth, and instead of a quarry wall, we were actually standing before this Truman Show end-of-the-world type wall. It was big. But we came to a door of navigable size, and Lucas Ray, owner of Crown Agency and partners with Google on a Bluetooth tram box and one of the world's largest 3D printers, a Disney castle in 6 seconds, walked up to the very classic industrial warehouse-looking doors, brought his hand together into a fist, and knocked on the outside of the door a few times. Knock, 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 maybe 4. There was the sound of a bolt unlocking, the groan of metal hinges putting in work, and the swinging rush of air as the door opened outward and we saw 2 large men standing before us in the doorway. One was white and bearded, but no mustache, like a Puritan or something, but I don't know my beards by period, really. The other was an Indian, Native American. He was brown. And I only say Indian because his hair and facial markings and jewelry were like the side of the Redskins' old helmet. I mean, he had a couple of feathers about his bald scalp, and a bone pierced through his nose, a small one. A replica, I'm sure. Printed, probably. Was he Tahitian? I didn't know. They were both wearing a simple, smart, and rather actionable-looking black suit and tie, like MI3. Have a friend that worked on that, but I wanted one, I thought. Standing together, they looked like bodyguards. Had to be. "Welcome to New Bedford," Lucas said to me, looking over and extending his arm out like Mr. York, welcoming his guests to Fantasy Island, where was Tattoo. And then I saw the engine and the Puritan gracefully stand aside and almost bow, but not quite regal or formal, really, but still kind of, yes, like a C-suite nod of respect, or like just like the board treated Elon Musk before he chose to be eaten by his computer. Lucas and I made our way past them, and they fell dutifully in line, almost, I would say, marching lightly behind. Aha, these guys were Tattoo. I followed Luke through what looked like a whaling town from the old times. The downtown, the inn, the chapel, the cobbler, and I ran out of things in my mind even as I looked at them that are from whatever time it was supposed to be. I'm sure maybe Luke was counting on that part of the reality argument he was presenting to me. It looked like the town ran quickly to the water's edge, a light lapping shore on a small harbor with one schooner-like whaling ship moored to a pier. The sun was setting behind the clean horizon of westward ocean, and in fact, the town seemed eerily quiet for dusk. Other than that, it all seemed real enough, and Lucas Ray let me know, "Reality, man, I'm telling you, this is where it's at!" He was spinning, actually, in the middle of the small stone and dirt road that sort of weaved between the uneven streets. The bodyguards, the Puritan and the engine, were following along, keeping pace just behind us, but also following Lucas's monologue, nodding along as he spoke, and continued into town, New Bedford, I guess. "The Google wants a retreat. I give them the white whale." He does some weird Gregory Peck imitation, but it seems as if he has only seen imitations, and it just plays odd, but I get it. "So this is all Moby Dick?" I asked, running my hand along the side of a wall, a wood wall, visually, and it vaguely felt like wood in the way your neighbor's new fence might look like brick, but it feels like otherness material that feels like space-age polymers with consciousness thinking about being bricks. And no one really cares, ... But everyone knows. "Of course, my friend, please!" He stops in the middle of the town square, the chapel looming next to us, and the sun looking, a lot like the sun was just about to set. The executives, maybe some banking friends, a few clients, and up and coming go-getter people for whatever. They want to have an experience and they don't want it on a screen, my friend. "Sure," I said, and I look over at, who I now realize are Ahab and Queequeg, and they are nodding. Still, I'm wondering, bodyguards? And not stupid head contraptions with fake arms swinging movements, and nothing to feel or fuck or fear, you know? Nothing to fear, eh? Who the fuck wants that? Stupid fucking people, that's who. Only stupid fucking people want this. Not Google, my friend. They want their special retreat to be real. Real as fuck. so I build it for them. Ahab and Queequeg had now moved into position at the chapel, opening the doors and standing to the side to let us in. Lucas put his arm around my shoulder and sort of corralled me towards the chapel. I had a feeling I was about to find out what being able to print a Disney castle in 6 seconds was going to get a person. And I looked out over New Bedford and thought, yeah, if you need to or really want to, this can be something. And I noticed people sort of closing up shop, winding up rope, shutting shutters. Some were still painting and getting things, real. Lucas almost sensed where I was thinking. Maybe he totally did. The cast is rehearsing indoors today and the crew is finishing up, he said, moving his hand about, indicating some of the same people I had just noticed. SAG? I asked. Fuck no, my friend, he said, getting serious all of a sudden. We don't record a thing. There is no record of this experience for screen actors to be paid of. Only a memory, my friend. One time only. Real only. He motioned up to the fellas still standing by at the door. These aren't even performers, he said, giving me a wink. They're security. These motherfuckers. I knew it. Bodyguards. Tomorrow is the final test on the whale itself. Big day. And he looked out to sea. But I can tell you this, Captain. He was getting weird again. It's out there. He choked a little. He put his arm around my back and neck, sort of, and we started up the steps to the chapel. He's pretty funny, actually, I was thinking. So then, what is Google's white whale? Information? Democracy? Robots? I asked, as Queequeg and Ahab, now confirmed as actor/bodyguards, motioned for us to enter. Oh, please. You don't know the answer yet? Information? He made a spitting sound. These things are already taken care of. He hesitated and looked out to sea towards the setting sun. There is only one white whale left, my dear friend, Luke said, looking back and nodding for me to go in the chapel before him. Fuck you, I thought, and I meant fuck me. I had already known the answer. He did too. He was setting me up for it. Reality, said Lucas Ray, and we all went inside the chapel, and the doors closed behind us. 13. You know what a trend is, my friend? Lucas asked me from the pulpit. He has literally made his way to the dais, to show us around, but somehow he's now preaching to us in the pews, me on the left side and Ahab and Queequeg on the right, like the opposite sides of the family at a wedding. A trend is a reality that didn't last very long, he said, spreading his arms as if to say, and look at me now. Like money, he says. Or say it with me, my friends. No one said a word. We continued to respect the sanctity of the space here in these wood-like, printable pews. Thank God these New Englanders were a simple lot and we weren't in the printable Sistine Chapel. This was like wood benches, a wood pulpit, 4 windows and a dream, a spire and a dream. Advertising. Ha! He bellows. Can't last too much longer, can it? I look over at the bodyguards, but they seem to be in a state of rapture, soaking it all in, and I can hear Lucas start to take that deep breath, start to scoff and stomp and get into a rhythm, a pitch rhythm. A control of the truth. By controlling the voice in the room, he always had a way with reality, actually. More of the persuasive kind, the kind you don't necessarily believe, but it picks you up. It's got you in its sway, and while it's happening, while you are rocking in the cradle on the highest branch, who cares? Who wants consumers anymore, my friend? They're like democracy. A pretty good idea, and a decent start to things, but really, in the end, this isn't a thing you want, eh? So fuck the consumer. The idea is to make your client base smaller and smaller and smaller, and reduce the audience so small, it's actually negative, my friend. It turns in on itself and comes out the other side. You sell the client to themselves. There is no consumer. This is all they've wanted the whole time, no? Hey, Freelancer? What do you think of this? Ahab and Queequeg turned their heads across the aisle and stared at me. I looked nervous for a second, but then realized it was fairly obvious. Amen, I said. The boys seemed satisfied, and Lucas Ray continued. Consumers are over, my friend. Lucas looked at me. You might be making this or that for them to see your product. To feel it, or experience it, or fuck, man, even to buy it in your virtual spaces. But it does not matter. When someone makes a product, they already know how many they're going to sell before they ever even print it. Luke looked incredulous, a childish roll of the eyes. So what is there to advertise? Nothing, my friend. Advertising is to keep people from burning down the castle, to align the cult from the top down. He made a gesture like rain trickling down on the itsy-bitsy spider. I glanced over at Ahab and Queequeg, and it looked like they were about to applaud, but stayed within themselves. Nice. And what I do is say, fuck your people and all your products. All you need to do is align the castles where they fucking do Medicis, man. Cardinal Richelieu. Advertising not of kings, but for kings. Kings only, baby. We are the great connectors, the ones who bring great ideas to great kings to keep peace in the kingdom. It seemed to be a high point. He continued, You want Moby Dick? If you are a captain of industry, you don't fucking read it, man, or watch it, or even go on a virtual tour of it, or whatever the fuck. Fuck that, my friend. This chapel is my advertising. What you see all around you, it's like the Cardinals' chapel, I said, more like a chant. He froze. Maybe he thought I was insulting him, when really I was sincerely trying to help. I think I was. He came down off the pulpit and sat down next to me, his brown eyes glittery and his wavy long hair starting to stick in places to his forehead where beads of perspiration had gathered during his sermon. It was all to good effect. He whispered, as if only to me, but I still feel like Ahab and Queequeg could hear or were trying to lean in. I built this chapel, this whole city, because at the very beginning of this story, at the very beginning, they go to this chapel, this very chapel that we are sitting in now. I mean, sure, we're sitting in a chapel that's cool, and it's like some space age polymer, but I guess wood is like a wood age polymer or whatever. He's unfazed. They sit and listen to a sermon. All these wailing peoples about to go on their ships, and the sermon is about Jonah and the whale. From the Bible, my friend. And then Moby Dick, is the same whale, no? Yeah, yes, man, totally, I tell him. Stories inside of stories. Because they've all been told. They just repeat. They just say to you, how will I do it different this time? How will it be the same? These are the only questions. The stories are just themselves. He leans back and takes a pause, no longer whispering, just breathing in his chapel air, like maybe he created that too. I tell you all this and show all of this so you can see my passion. Ahab and Queequeg, now back in the game, now standing, seeming to get something ready. Lucas stands as well, looming above me as I sit in his polymer pew. So you can see what I think these screens and these virtual worlds. He makes fucking air quotes. I had not seen those in a minute. I am their sworn enemy. I will tell no more stories in this manner ever. On this I have sworn. Reality only, my friend. There is no virtual form of it. And he sort of waved his hand, as if defeating the bull, as if some ancestral movement from Portugal and the jungles of Brazil and the piping hot oil-gushing lowlands of Houston This gesture has traveled to show a beast had been conquered. Now you know the truth, Lucas Ray tells me, calmer now, wrapping up at the end of the pitch. He gestures for me to stand with him, walk with him. Now you know what is real. I do not make this stupid sex tape with Zero Zigga and the Burger King. I don't make these things anymore for anyone. It's over for me. You see, my friend, yes? Luke looked at me like when we used to party together. He a bit better at it than me, but willing to indulge my efforts. Same with advertising, really. And that's how we were friends. I knew this, Luke. He didn't do it. And I don't know or care to know who did, or to ever see it or play with, or whatever you beasts do in your gardens, my dear friend. He finished laughing. Now, let's go and see the whale. Ahab and Queequeg were in position after the performance, ushering us back out into the town square of New Bedford. But I stopped for a moment, a small hiccup in my step. I heard a faint buzz, a weird hum, like I was too near a radio tower back in the day. What? I tried to listen, but then it was gone. I got back into rhythm, and we went back outside to go see the whale. The white one, I assumed. 14. Lucas Ray's father didn't want him to be a bullfighter when he was growing up, as so many Latin American fathers with strong colonial ties once did. Lucas Ray Sr. wanted Luke to be a bull rider, a professional like he was in Brazil, but better. Mr. Ray wanted his son, Lucas, to ride bulls in America for PBR, Professional Bull Riding, the league that dominated the sport in the U.S. and even had drawn Brazilians into the world's most dangerous sport. They had a natural flair and grace, a rhythm, ritmo, as the riders would discuss. The Brazilians were also known for getting hurt easily, which, when you were riding a 2,000-pound animal with its balls strapped in a leather vise and pulled as tight as possible, injuries are more than common. They are the sport, really. And so, as coincidence or fortune or reality dictated, Lucas Ray Sr. got injured doing the sport he loved. The sport he believed maybe only Americans were truly brave enough to do. It is one thing to stand with a weapon and a red cape that confuses the brilliant beast because it is colorblind, not stupid. But it is the cowboys, the ones that left civilization behind, maybe twice, once in Europe, and then again from extensions of Europe on the east coast of the Americas, and said no, not this either, and kept going. They kept going to a place where the idea came upon these brave men and women who ventured once again past the glories of Western society and formed what would become the most Western of all, and in this place something that had not occurred to the kingdoms and peoples of Europe in centuries, nay, millennia. What if, instead of killing these beasts, we ride them, make them as angry as possible, and strap ourselves to their backs and see how long we shall last, for we shall lose, like Sisyphus and his mighty rock as he digs in for yet another step with his sandal, digging into the dirt, bones aching against the weight that needs for some reason always to get up that hill. These brave Americans decided that squishing their fucking balls as tight as you can and climbing on their backs and holding on, if only for the briefest amount of time, was well beyond any sport of kings from our blessed history. That shit was new, and Lucas Ray Sr. wanted it. But he was hurt early in his brief but brilliant, graceful, slightly flamboyant, semi-professional career in South America. And he never made it to PBR. He did, however, make it to North America. In the other way that brave or smart or just fucking crazy Brazilians make it to Texas besides riding bulls: oil. So this was his shot. His athletic, handsome, and also pretty fucking smart son, Luke. He was a Texan, born there soon after their arrival, found the best bull riding school system in the state of Texas, and moved to that neighborhood in Houston, which, lucky for the Ray family, was also where they kept the oil. I had picked this story up on many late nights at Zigga back in the day, waiting for an experience render to come through, or just waiting for fucking feedback, knowing something was going to change, and just waiting for what it was so you could handle it quick and get the fuck back out there. So we'd talk sometimes, or Lucas would talk, a lot. The thing about this dream my father had, this American dream, He would start putting his feet up on a meeting table in a screening room or in the kitchen, standing around the bar, wishing there were more than 3 wrinkly oranges and a brown banana in the basket on the bar top. Sure, this is something special, something crazy, something only Americans could have done, could have made up, yeah? Yes, I would say, wondering when the fuck we were going to get out of there. That doesn't mean it's the American dream, But my father, he really believed in your soul, through your heart, through your yearnings, man. You could find this purpose, this thing you were supposed to do. Me, not so much. You don't believe in riding bulls? No, man. I was shit hot fucking bull rider, man. Fuck, no. He said, chuckling to himself a little, maybe remembering riding bulls in high school or whatever the fuck. No, my friend. I don't believe in purpose. Or a soul, really. Not much to find here, he said, now hysterically laughing. So you didn't get hurt? I asked, more interested now. Oh, man, that's the sport, you know. I broke some bones, I got a few concussions, all the things you're supposed to do. But none of them ended my career, not like my father. He thought about that for a second. I wish, my friend, I had gotten hurt. So, what the fuck? I indulged him, apparently a repeating pattern I have. I didn't want the crazy dream, the mythology, the philosophy. Better than bullfighting, better than Europe. We're advancing, not running, going further down the path in ways no one saw before. This is how my father saw it. Maybe it's how he made so much money in oil. Then just fuel all of it, but never made him happy. He wanted the big symbol, the grail, and for him it was riding the toros. He did a half-hearted imitation. I understood, but I totally saw a different dream. Okay, fuck it. I was in at this point. Hit me, Luke. I didn't get hurt, Dick. I did much worse. I quit. I wanted the American dream, where you get to smoke weed on the university quads with smart girls who are very, 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 very fucking sexy and who wanted to figure some things out together. I wanted to read poetry. I wanted to play the bongos and think about the dumbest, smallest thing as if it could all change the world. How did Belushi end his college career? He became a senator, my friend. This is it. He catches his breath. He meant, I'm assuming, in Animal House, Belushi. Fucking drugs, man. Did I almost forget this part? LSD, music festivals, road trips, doing nothing for years except drugs and thinking and fucking, my friend. How did this become a part of society that everyone is okay with? Is there another dream than this one? Why would I ride a fucking angry animal with only a clown, a drunk, mad cowboy fucking clown to protect me? That's not a dream, my friend. That's a nightmare. This also induced a round of that doomsday Hell's Gate laughter that maybe feels the best. The one where you know you're fucked, but not quite yet, and isn't that a pretty flower over there? And as we sat and waited for clients we might not have liked or trusted to defend the fate of all of our self-centered art fucks in a corporate world, having some genius but mostly total bullshit ideas, Lucas Ray Jr., bull rider, an American dreamer, would always finish this particular story with some version of this ending. Well, man, as my father used to tell me at some point in his life, I believe he grew up on a farm, but this has never been confirmed. Nonetheless, he would say, this is just like the day the pigs ate my little brother. Lucas, had no idea what that meant. He went on rallying his team for whatever the client was about to throw at us at 1 a.m. or whatever fucking time it was, because we are fortunate. Because this dream that I speak of, this lethal, beautiful brainwash combination of drugs and free time and smart, lazy, thinky people running around these sprawling, exclusive compounds on the edge of town, what does this dreamy, seductive America prepare you for? Ah, yes, I'm speaking to you, my friends, and I see it in your eyes. You all know what it prepares you for, and we all share in its majesty. Advertising. The gesture. The bullfighter, still not the rider, the red cape, the older school. Maybe the Europeans did think of riding the bull, and were like, that's fucking stupid. Maybe Lucas Ray Sr. had thought of that too and didn't care, because eventually someone did do it, and in the end, you didn't. This would perhaps end in clapping or the throwing of the last brown banana at Luke Jr., but the feedback from the client would eventually come in, and we would all be super pissed off. This all happened to me in an instant as we walked through the town square and headed to the docks of 3D printed New Bedford to catch our white whale, or see it, or test it, or something. It's funny how things you know so well, things that are already in your mind, don't really take up any time when you relive them. They just are there. You can sort of gulp them and feel them all the same, but outside of time. I was walking with Ahab and Queequeg and hearing that funny rubber polymer sound as we boarded the Pequod, which wouldn't be so weird if it didn't look exactly like old wood. But the ocean looked very, very, very real, and the sun too, and it was all but gone as we looked down at a whaling skiff on the docks next to the Pequod. There were people there, more than had been around before, as if Lucas had summoned them. It was similar to the crowd that had surrounded him on the tarmac. He was engaging with about 8 or so people, all seeming to be talking at once, and Queequeg and Ahab and I just kept moving towards the rope ladder and down, and I could see Lucas Ray receding before me, standing, talking, leading, and then my feet hit the bottom of a boat, a whaling skiff, in fact, which felt and sounded the fuck like real wood, and the sound of the waves lapping against the side were like real as fuck too. And as we began to dip and sway in the ocean's way, I saw Lucas on the edge of the Pequod. He had one foot on the rope ladder. He had started us down, and somehow we had all passed him, and his small entourage began to swirl around him, almost stepped down. Come on, Luke, what are you doing? And then, even as I was watching him, he disappeared, sort of swirled out of existence like De Niro in the newspapers in Brazil. And Ahab says, and we're off, sounding more like an announcer at the Belmont, not on Derby Day, some other race. And I look over at Queequeg, who gives an uneven smile, like it's the third time he's ever tried to do such a thing, with his mouth. Do it, and the bone in his nose scrunches up a bit, giving a cannibal-esque nose flare, the water still slapping at the sides of our whaling vessel as we drifted away from the Pequod and out to sea. I suddenly realized the sun had gone down. It was dark. Again. 15. I love the ocean, the big water. And there is ephemeral space connection when you're on the ocean at night, and the horizon blends into each other and the reflection of the stars, and the stars are just that. Always on both sides. Light, traveling through space like water lilies or the best of Whistler. It's all water. When the light and the reflection and the surface and the sky all become one, all become, well, paint. It's like that out there at night on the water when the sun has really gone down, not sundown, but night. People who don't do water, who fear, as they should, the ocean, don't do the open water at night. Most people perhaps don't know, and cruise ships can go fuck themselves, but for those that do, it's a singular thing, like Lawrence of Arabia crossing the Sinai. It has a feeling of survival to it, even when there is no chance of dying. I wasn't sure which was the case here. What's the plan? I asked the fellas. Boss said we should show you the whale, so we're heading out to see the whale. I thought we were all going, and I realized as I said that it doesn't matter. He got hung up on business, Ahab said. Queequeg, I noticed, was light on talk, heavy on action. He was steering us with a rudder in the back, which I imagine was like the Disney Jungle Cruise, not just a tiller in the open sea, but a silent motor that was propelling us forward. Not so far now, just a couple 100 yards offshore. Ahab was peering out into the night, not sure how many times this great whale hunter had been out to sea. Queequeg seemed a little less concerned, but maybe he was just stone cold. And so it's a test? Like, is it a machine or a projection? I asked, feeling insecure about how far a couple 100 yards offshore at night would be equal to in a swim scenario. It's real, Queequeg says, matter-of-factly. Not a projection? I said, also kind of asking. Real, Queequeg said again, so flat. Fucking cannibals. This is it, Ahab yells out, pointing out into the darkness. But then I could in fact see something blinking under the surface, like the strange rhythm of the internet connection lights, the mystery you rooted for to come through but rarely knew exactly what you were looking at. They were just strange oscillating colors, white mainly, a yellow, a green, moving maybe steady below, but here with us on the surface they bounced and danced on the waves they were entangled with. Queequeg seemed to tense up and the boat came to a stop, the wake behind running past like a ski boat on a reservoir. There was a rumble, the train rumble through a New York apartment. It lifted the water now, the rumbles turning into bubbles and then a spray like an organic Bellagio fountain if it weren't programmable to music. The front of the boat lifted and then the back as this cresting wave rolled beneath us. Ahab sighed, relieved. I saw the head of the great white beast breaking through the surface like a newborn crowning the birth canal, and it began to rise. Its one eye above the waves was iridescent. I could see the other lights blinking and reflecting in its glassy curve. Queequeg lets out a groan this time, guttural, coming from a new place. Real! He yells, steadying himself for another wave from the surfacing monster, the nose of its monstrous white head and the one eye peeking between lapping waves, and then it stops abruptly, strangely. It's caught! It's caught on the ropes! Ahab said, and he's right. You can see by the light from the machine below, blinking and reflecting off the surface, that a rope from a harpoon has wrapped itself around the whale and won't let it surface any further, like a stuck pin on a bowling lane. And of course there are ropes and harpoons, and I understand it all in the name of keeping it real, but these are real ropes, and the whale is now just grinding. Queequeg lets out a strange sound. Maybe it was a word, I'm not sure, but he started to play with the rudder now out of the water, the prow of the boat starting to point down as the water swirled around us in a determined land of the lost style. It's trying to reset, Ahab said, and we started to become vertical. The prow now pointed straight down into the whirlpool. Queequeg is gone. Abandoned ship? Ahab is held onto the prow like a true captain, going down with the ship or not knowing what else to do, but his legs were starting to peel back over the top of his head as the boat was definitely headed down, and I fell, splashing into the whirlpool, barely clearing the boat as it and Ahab went down, and I tried to kick a few times. 1, 2. I wasn't scared of the fucking water, the fucking darkness, and especially not the white motherfucking whale, but it was no use. My head slipped under, and I stopped kicking as the water just sucked me down with it by centrifugal force or some other force I had known but probably had forgotten. The blinking lights were at the base of all of this, what looked like, honestly, a giant underwater server farm. There were bubbles everywhere, and it made the whole scene look like a blacklight mushroom go a trance party. The boat was being pulled into the one giant gear system at the base of the server farm, and Ahab had come free of the boat, but managed to get himself tangled in the ropes with the gears and the belly of the white whale. Queequeg was unaccounted for, but I saw the rest of this in bursts and fits of multicolored light, like being in a K-hole at the limelight. And there he was, Ahab, tangled up in the lights, and he was waving at me, trying to help me or telling me to get the fuck out. It didn't matter. I was being sucked into the ropes of the gears like the start of the motherfucking Industrial Revolution about to take me out, and I always thought it would be me and Ray Kurzweil after the Singularity, enjoying being information, just traveling everywhere at once, being, or just singular, chilling, I guess, whatever happens. I never thought that I was gonna get sucked into a bunch of amusement park fucking gears like Charlie motherfucking Chaplin. Fuck! And then a server dislodged from the stack. I didn't really see it happen as much as the blinking lights getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and really not until it swooped me up in the chest and just sort of wrapped the rest of my body around it as it headed to the surface like a diving bell. saving the life of one of those crazy fucking freedivers that you're like, what the fuck are you doing at the bottom of the sea? And then boom, I hit the surface and gasped, like those divers must feel. I held onto that floating server, still blinking, talking to its friends down below, still stuck down with the whale and Ahab, and fuck it, I was sure they got the cannibal too. And then I heard the buzz. That radio tower, I'm the only one hearing this buzz kind of sound. It's strong now, and it was coming from out at sea. And I realized as I was watching the blinking lights getting smaller, washing away as the dark waves just became darkness, and I headed where the sun don't shine, following the sun to its watery grave beyond the horizon, out and out and out in the dark sea, wrapped and floating on a server, whose strangely still blinking lights are my only companion, like Winston the volleyball. But there was that sound again, the buzz, and I was headed towards it, to the end of the earth. Maybe it's the new bell, for whom the buzz tolls. That's pretty funny, I thought, and then something touched my feet. I've swam with sharks before, and the trick of that is to feed them and to be able to see them. Nothing is scary, maybe even your last moments from a grizzly bear or equivalent human-devouring creature. If you can see it, if you're like, holy fuck, here he comes, fuck, those teeth are big, you're all eaten. But I think it's the unseeing, the knowing something is definitely always down there, but you can't see it, like the floating and the unseeing and then being touched. Fuck that. So I recoiled my foot, and I almost came unglued to my server, and I just accepted my fate and stuck my foot back out there to keep my balance and touched something again, but it didn't touch back. It was a surface, a floating island or something. I ran my foot along it, and it went back and forth for as long as I could touch it. It was rubber, molded, printable polymers, and that made me unfucking believably happy. It was a ledge at the edge of darkness, at the edge of the sea, and the buzz was very loud then, and I went for it. I came off the server and grabbed onto this ledge, my feet dangling off the side and the top of my torso hanging onto this slippery surface. Unable to see, scared of losing my grip, I started to kick like a fat tourist at the resort pool, deciding he didn't need to use the ladder. But I was fucking winded and disoriented, and I gave it everything I had, kicking like a fucking dolphin at SeaWorld before it went away. And somehow I beached myself up and onto the ledge, and then smack, I slid and hit a wall like an untrained penguin. And a light blinked, and the buzz was loudest of all, and sure enough it was a door. The edge of the experience. The Truman Show is how we know. And the crackle of the buzz became clear for a moment, receding and allowing the sounds of a familiar and pleasant voice to come through the fuzz and the darkness that was about to surround me. Mr. Dick! Mr. Dick! It was an electro-hollow warmth that filled me with great joy, and I felt like we'd been together before, or had always been together. It was a feeling, not a memory, all of it getting wavy, gravy, hazy. Mr. Ho would like to see you. Coogie? I asked, and then went dark, unconscious, as it were. 16. A lot of people don't realize what is going on. They view life as a bunch of unconnected incidents and things. I'm standing in a suit with a ridiculously skinny tie at a trash fire in downtown LA. Miller, or so I understand his name to be, is in a onesie, oily like a mechanic. They don't realize that there's like this lattice of coincidence that lays on top of everything. He's talking to me as he dumps jugs of green ooze like antifreeze of jet fuel into the fire, which then burns green, coming in almost bubbly bursts of flames like a cool-ass thing you would get at Spencer's Gifts. I dig it. I'll give you an example, show you what I mean, Miller says, set off against the 6th Street Bridge down on the empty riverbed, classic Western decline apocalypse is happening now scenario. There is still no color. Nothing really has any color, even in the hazy SoCal sunset, even the oil rigs grinding away, and the few abandoned warehouses about to become an arts district, right next to Skid Row, about to be the same as it ever was. All of it somehow colorless, and maybe appropriately so. Suppose you're thinking about a plate of shrimp, Miller says, gurgling into the trash can a few more gurgles of green slime that erupt into tiny green bursts like watching Il Volcano erupt from a party boat in the islands off Sicily. Suddenly someone will say something like plate, or shrimp, or plate of shrimp. Out of the blue. No explanation. No point in looking for one either. He stops pouring the goop and points to his head. It's all part of a cosmic unconsciousness, he tells me, already shaking his head in disappointment at the world for not getting it. Did you eat a lot of acid, Miller, back in the hippie days? My voice is a little tinny, echoey, like listening to yourself eat Doritos. Not as squeaky teenage as it was before, and I don't mind the language so much. It feels right. Not a bad question, really. Miller ignores it. I'll give you another instance. He continues, staring into the green fire. You know the way that everybody is into weirdness right now? I can hear the sound of a train clank. The horn signals as hard-pressed air shouted out into the sky, sounding like the turn of the century, crossing over the bridge. Books in all the supermarkets about Bermuda Triangles, UFOs, how the Mayans invented television, that kind of thing. I don't read them books, I said, matter of fact, and was disappointed for a second, wondering if that was right. I mean, being a punk is cool, but fuck, books are already dead. Do we have to keep just kicking them in the face? And then I realized what I meant. I meant gossip rags. I don't read them books. The ones with the UFOs and shit. Right on. Okay, cool. I looked down at my hands. I was fumbling with a piece of garbage, a wrapper from a tiny burger, a regular-sized piece of gum. I optioned to throw it in the fire, and it made a tiny spark. It was strangely satisfying. Sometimes it's the small things you do in quieter situations like these that have good haptic feedback. Well, the way I see it, it's exactly the same. Miller had a thought going. There aren't no difference between a flying saucer and a time machine. People getting so hung up on specifics. They miss out on seeing the whole thing. I optioned to keep nodding along. Take South America, for example. In South America, thousands of people go missing every year. Nobody knows where they go. They just disappear. Yes, sir, I say, getting him to maybe wrap this up, move on to the next scene. But if you think about it for a minute, you'll realize something. There had to be a time when there was no people, right? Yeah, I guess. Where do these people come from, huh? He feeds the fire. I'll tell you where. The future. Green fire. And where did all these people disappear to, huh? He's asking now. Not rhetorical. I can say nothing or really the only option. The past, I say? That's right. And how did they get there? I opt in for a little more aggression. How the fuck do I know? Flying saucers, Miller says, and it sort of stops me, but I feel it too, and Miller seems to notice and completes the circle he started at the top, which are really, yeah, you got it, time machines. Miller shakes his head again like he's sad for the rest of us, staring down into the green, flaming pit. I think a lot about this kind of stuff. I look up, but choose not to say anything. Just look at this strangely magical LA, desolate end of times LA, the purgatory that is escape punk's heaven, the cover of a Suicidal Tendencies album. I do my best thinking on the bus. That's how come I don't drive, see? You don't even know how to drive, I say, just to say. I don't want to know how. I don't want to learn, see? Miller gets more emotional than he's been all conversation. The more you drive, the less intelligent you are. He dumps the rest of a jug of green juice into the fire and it flames up and wipes over us, and I'm looking at myself from afar. The 6th Street Bridge, the empty LA River, the pecking, pounding, animalistic form of the oil drillers all in the wide now, looking at ourselves floating above like the Lost Boys letting go of the bridge. And me and Miller, just tiny forms now, standing there with this blazing green can. And it isn't a trash can, of course not. It's a giant can of Mountain Dew. It's green flames fueling this whole end of times vibe. Sure, okay. I tap out. 17. The editor was looking over at me. I was back on the couch at the Zigga agency reviewing updates to the Mountain Dew work. It's a slow scene, right? I asked. Yeah, it is, the editor admitted, but I like it. It has a shallow depth to it, a truth that's true because it's not that accurate, you know what I mean? That's why I like it. As true as anything else, I said, and more fun to listen to. Yes, I get it. How does it work with the story? Aw, man, Dick, I'm not a writer. But I think it's just a backdrop. Sort of shows people they can connect whatever shit they want. Make it their own thing. I don't know. Mountain Dew? The editor said, answering his own question. There was a buzz. The editor picked it up. Hello? Mr. Ho. Would like to see Mr. Dick now. It was Coogee, my hero. To be continued, I said, getting up from the couch in the editing suite. The editor gave me a tiny advertising salute with 2 fingers off the top of his head. I walked out and headed to the elevator to ride the great glass Nero digital super tube that is Zigga. 18. So Coogee, Feng Ho's apparently omnipotent assistant, had checked in with Google to find out why I had not returned on the Google tram back from Lucas Ray's Fresh Kill studio. I was wanted here at Zigga to look at some work. Go fucking figure. You're late for a meeting, and it saves your life. Well, not actually. Or so I was later told. Coogee had the Google tram swoop me up and take me back to Zigga, where they keep a few penthouse suites on the top floor for visiting CEOs and heads of state and, well, the Freelancer, who's working on their Mountain Dew ad. Turns out this cable-free hyperspeed Google tram also goes directly to the top of Zigga. Yeah, checks out. So that's where I was, in the penthouse suites overlooking, well, all of New York City, recovering that night from my dip with Moby fucking Dick, when I got a message from Lucas. Dear Dick, my dearest friend, I fucked you up good, man. I tell you, people do not mind a disruption when that shit is real. Real. That was the whole ride, my friend. You took it. Now I'm going to take the people on their Google retreat to see this show the night before. The same show. So they can take a look at how we do things around here. And then I give my talk, right? Right there in the chapel and pump them up, you see? Yes? Fuck you, Lucas, is what I'm thinking. Telling me now that I had just had the experience, that there was no accident, that was the ride? He was telling me that Google was going to pay him $1 billion whatever to throw them in the fucking ocean, or a tank that really fucking looked like an ocean, until you find the edge. Lucas's message continued. Then we go down to see the boat and check on the whale, just like with you. Give them a real behind-the-scenes look. They are businessmen and entertainers, and they like to create things, and this all seems very natural, yes? But I happen to slip away, and of course, my bodyguards, the Queequeg and Ahab, are leading the adventure, and then boom! They meet the great white whale, and they must confront their own survival, and all the symbols all around them are opening their minds to so many business possibilities, and when we pull them out on the other side of the tank, floating on their very own servers, he laughs, his strange, hysterical laugh. They are thanking me and hugging me and paying me all of the money. Reality, my friend. I keep telling you, and I thank you, my dear Dick, for participating. And he laughed again. Deeper and funnier this time, and I fucking laughed too. Cocksucker. And then his message was over, and I had been taken for a ride, and also somehow now loved it. Fine. Still, I was exhausted, and I ended up just falling asleep on Zigga's no-century modern couch. I woke up at 4 a.m. That's not unusual, but not always what you want. I watched some of the hologram pieces dance in the corners of the penthouse suites, some abstract and subtle, some more sculptural. There was one of Elvis, or so I thought until I realized it was actually Andy Warhol's silkscreen of Elvis, animated so that he draws that gun from his cockeyed holster and bang, gives it a shot and then puts it back and then bang, it happens again and so forth. Mesmerizing, really, using it to get me back on track, run things through my brain. Like who the fuck made the sex tape? Why would they want it to be the Burger King and not talk and have sex with Zero? Why Zero if not Lucas? Bang! Maybe some other people Zigga has screwed over. But what about Sophia? What about what she said? And what you found out to be right, that it was a new feeling, a different sort of occupancy in these experiences. It was more attached and, Jesus Christ, way too fucking real. Bang! What are they using to bring personal data like that to bear in a bootleg experience? And it just felt like Zero, like she was actually there, live, like she was inside herself. Bang! Maybe that's why I can't talk. Is this experience just for me? Did Sophia have the same experience or a different one? I need to talk to her. I need her to help me. Again. But first, I need to finish what I started, I thought, staring at Andy Warhol's video hologram animation of Cowboy Elvis. Bang! And I had to tap into the experience in the penthouse suite of Jacob Ziga's agency. Jacob Ziga, Zero's father. I had to tap in and have sex with her before I went and saw her husband. Before my old friend Fang Ho invited me into his office and asked what the fuck I knew about this sex tape. What I had learned about this experience that someone made to embarrass Fang and humiliate Zero, and maybe even more importantly, I needed to figure out why this fucking thing seemed to be about me. Bang. 19. On the pleasant shore of the French Riviera, about halfway between Marseille and the Italian border, stands a large, proud, rose-colored hotel. Deferential palms cool its flushed facade, and before it stretches a short, dazzling beach. Lately, it has become a summer resort of notable and fashionable people. A decade ago, it was almost deserted after its English clientele went north in April. Now, June is full of life and frivolity, careers won and lost, partners and passions and lions, drinks and light hues in the hands of the young, not yet eaten, and the old who've survived past their welcome. And now I am here as the Burger King. Zero has my hand again, and I'm going with it this time. The darkness of our initial encounter in the studio, the Charlie Rose interview table, the white spotlight, and then the receding darkness giving way to the lobby of the Carlton, and its sweaty, smarmy, swirling masses of marketing, to that real night long ago when Zero took my hand and I followed, just like this time now, attached to her and to the world through my mute Burger King existence. The buzz is here, the tiny, tinny connection. This is not virtual anymore. Maybe not finished quite yet, but something else. I'm in it, not fake in it, not a really good fucking simulation, but in it. Inside of whatever this is. It feels more like I'm in the world than the world is in me, than the world exists inside these goggles or inside this chamber or room, event space or tent or some other thing that you know you're in when they are trying to convince you you're somewhere else. This doesn't feel like that at all. This place, not this experience, feels alive and moving, literally electric, but not exactly digital. Not like information, more like the real feeling of lightning in a bottle. And she has my hand again, right where we left off, out of the darkness, weaving our way through the advertising hordes to the front of the Carlton and to La Croisette, and the thick Mediterranean air on a warm summer night in the Côte d'Azur. I'm not tapping out this time. I'm too tapped in. Zero takes me to a waiting convertible, just waiting on the crowded Cannes street, waiting for us and me, and my big-ass Burger King head takes the wheel. I'm driving. Somehow it's easy. I'm not thinking, it's just happening, and we look at each other screaming with our eyes searching for something more, a sign, a yes, I will, forever. She disengages me and nestles her head into the crook of my arm in my red velvet jacket, and throw my arm around her and rest my puffy, cuffed hand across her shoulder, and she inches closer to my giant, smiling head. The crown on top feeling like an electric yarmulke, like we just took pills. And I drive up the coast to Antibes, past Belle Reeves, and up to the Hotel du Cap. This isn't a sex tape. This is fucking beautifully romantic. We pop champagne in our hotel room. We sit on the love seat from the Fin de Siècle. And we stare at each other, that same look. I want to talk, but then also happy that I can't. Just using my electric senses and feeling all of this, I want my eyes to tell her, to ask her something, to find out what it is going on. Not just with this sex tape, but if she is actually in there, and if this is really a thing that is happening, like it did before, that one night in Cannes. We never went further than holding hands and quiet, desperate looks at each other, but it stayed with me, and it's back. It's happening again. So I ask her with my eyes, my big, bold Burger King eyes. I just ask, who are you really? My eyes say. And what were you before? And then she answers. She's not talking, but I can hear her. I can hear her, and it's fucking Zero in real time. And she says without saying a word, "We said no questions," she says. But we didn't say that. We never said that. And now we're in a dinghy, headed away from the Hotel de Cap, sitting on the rocks above the gentle waves in the tender night. I can see the famous pool set into the rocks and the diving board for the stars to splash into the big water. Everything is bathed in blue moonlight, and I'm not sure I've experienced something more beautiful. It's a feeling, a moment that I am in. We are being taken to the biggest yacht I have ever seen, anchored a few hundred meters from shore. It's a destroyer from the first Gulf War. It has been converted to a luxury yacht, with 2 helipads on either end and another yacht that sits on this yacht in case you want to take another yacht out. Art covers both sides of this majestic vessel. On one side was a Banksy, done when no one even knew who he was. It was a whale, painted into the side of the boat so it looked like it was swimming alongside, a big billowing plume from his blowhole spraying up like fireworks exploding across the bow. Only at the end of the boat, the rudder was digging into its tail. Nice. On the other side, as we round to board, I see the coons. It's a giant panda, watching TV and eating in and out. It's funny and glossy and seems to shine even in the darkness. I know all this already. I've been on this boat before, back then, back in real time. This is Jacob Zigga's boat, Zero's dad. There's a party on the yacht, of course. People mingle on the main deck in party dresses with party drinks and party favors. Zero is leading me again like she's been wanting to take me here, leading me by the hand this whole time. From working for her years ago, to our first encounter in Cannes, to this moment, this electric simulation that is as real as anything I've ever felt. She continues to hold my hand and pull me forward, and we go down a level to the disco. And advertising people are getting funky, sort of. And we wind our way through the spinning marketers like the Fisher King and Grand Central Station, a dance, a chaos, a love story. We go down another level and maybe even another, I don't know. Zero drops my hand and stops at the classic ocean-going vessel door. She spins the big wheel and I hear the metal creak as she swings the door open and pulls some lever, and a few lights come on, and I am now looking at the whole of the ship, a cargo bay that has been filled with gold lions. Those gold-maned lions, front legs out in front, torso emerging from its own circle, like a portal to another dimension where lions are gold and the size of a small trophy, but heavy as fuck. These gold statues are the pinnacle of advertising achievement, at least to other advertisers, and they were now piled, thousands of them haphazardly like the ball pit at a kids club, the lights in the room gleaming off their metal bodies, a mountain of gold lions Scrooge McDuck and Schmog would envy. "Come on, let's play," Zero says, giving a few running steps and then leaping out and into the pile of these heavy metal statues. "No," I want to scream, but she lands delicately, soft and smooth and comfy, like when the towel wraps around the detergent bottle as it falls amongst its own freshness. "Jeff made these, coons," she says, nestling amongst the lions. "They look so real, but they aren't. They're for playing. We call it a treasure bath." I find this to make so much sense and be so absurd at the same time. I jump. I sink into the lions. They smother me and tickle me, and Zero joins in, and we're rolling and laughing, and I try to kiss her through my big plastic lips with my big burger head, and I fear the worst, but somehow it happens. The connection. Maybe she figured it out, unlocked the key to kissing me, to fighting through this giant advert and getting inside. Our tongues found each other, and it was like licking a battery. It curled my toes and made my dick stick out like a lightning rod. And just that fucking kiss, the one that didn't happen last time, the one I've thought about for years and years and years. And our tongues were connected, like two mating eels, and it's the best sensation, real or otherwise, that I have ever felt. We disengage for a moment. I roll over and look into her eyes, wanting that forever. The signal, as gold lions were falling and squishing around us, and I recognize those eyes, but something isn't right. The nose is bigger, the hair isn't black, it's silver, and there are wrinkles and the cheeks are sticking out at a different angle, and I pull my giant plastic face back so I can see what I'm seeing. And And, well, it's not Zero. It's her father, Jacob Zigga. Come with me, Dick, Jacob said, looking at me with those same fucking eyes as his daughter, but with a face and hair like Steven Pinker merged with a David Lee Roth fashion sense. I've always thought you were special, that you would understand something like this, thrive even. You can be special in this reality too. Come with me. Jacob Zigga holds out his hand, just like his daughter, beckoning me to follow with those motherfucking eyes. I sit with my big Burger King head, the same ceaseless grin, my own wide eyes unblinking and staring out upon the sea of gold lions we were floating on, straddling one of the greatest advertisers to ever live, my old boss, my new lover, French kisser par excellence, and Cupid, leading me to some other side of something I wasn't even sure about, but knew somehow that I could never come back, and even if I didn't want to come back, it's not like me to choose the option that has the least options. Fuck. I tapped out. 20. Mr. Dick, Mr. Ho will see you now, Kuji said, radiating its presence in the waiting room outside Fang's office. I had been recounting the last night spent in the Zigga suite, the Burger King sex tape, the Mountain Dew editing session this morning, and the great glass tube elevator ride to here. Now I had to talk to Fang and tell him what I had been able to find out, and exactly what I wanted to say to him is what I had been thinking about. I wasn't sure he needed to know everything. If it didn't lead him to who was behind it, Zero is his wife after all, and we never did anything, just kind of fell in love a long time ago and then had a reenactment of it that felt more real than the original and went a little further, pushed me to a new place I wasn't sure I could return from. But did Fang have to know all that? Dick, Fang said, getting up from his desk of hologram sculptures and shaking my hand. I heard you had quite a time with Lucas over at Crown. Have you heard about what's going on over there? I laughed a little. This was a good way to get warmed up. Yeah, sure, Fang said. Corporate retreats. Yes, I think in essence he's done with consumers anyway, just wants the kings, no serfs. But it's Lucas Ray. He's a prankster. A hooligan, Fang said, as he always did. He definitely is all of that, if little else, I said, still happy to be talking about someone else. And he has a lot of tools at his disposal. Fang was getting there, leaning in to let me know he still wanted to know what the fuck is going on with this thing. He didn't do it, my friend, I said, like Luke would. Fang looked at me. He wasn't surprised. He wanted it to be Lucas Ray because it would be easiest that way. It would make so much sense and they could almost just chalk it up to history. It's not even worrying about moving it forward and let it be. If it were Lucas Ray that made that Burger King sex tape with Fang's wife. But it was not. Okay, Fang said knowingly. So, he didn't know what to say. So I tapped back in to see if I could find out more. I looked at Fang, old friends style. I did not sleep with your wife. Mainly, I just followed her around. I tapped out before anything got really going. At least this much was exactly true, a reality as I knew it. I did not share with him that I made out with his father-in-law. What? Fang scoffed. What difference would that make? That's the thing, dude. I said, being as real as I could be. It's not virtual, really. It's something else. It's personal. It knows you, like AI, like the scary kind. I think it's not a canned environment, but a space that is made for you. Like, not information AI, but like reality AI. Does that make any sense? No, Fang said, and I just kept going. And the people, even Zero, she knows things about you that there is no way anyone could know. I said, knowing this wasn't exactly true. I was extrapolating, guessing what other people's experiences might be like, because the truth was that Zero could have known those things about me. What do you mean? Fang asked. I mean, with this Mountain Dew piece we're doing, in the Repo Man world, you're in there, sure, but you're also on a couch watching it, and it's a simulation, and it can get better or worse with little tweaks here and there, more convincing touches to remind you of the real world. You know, you're still in it, but it can never not feel like a simulation, like a video game. At some point, We stopped worrying about the graphics and just went with gameplay, 8-bit was fine because we could never get good enough to end the simulation effect, so why bother? Spend all your weight on playing the game. But this is real, dude. You're in it. It may be a different universe. It feels maybe more electric, like everything is kind of hot or buzzing. But you're fucking in it, man. And it's not even because it's realistic visuals or any better than where you've gotten with all the video work you've been producing over the years. But this is a feeling that is real. It also would not matter if it were an 8-bit world or Minecraft, Pixelverse, or Fortnite. Because whatever the fuck it is, you are inside of it. I stopped for a second. Feng looked as if he had come to a realization, as if I had reminded him of something he may have forgotten or buried deep in the back of his mind. Why the Burger King? What is that about? He asked, just sort of skipping over my soliloquy and asking the next question. I'm not sure, I said. True thing again. But I did have a theory on it, and I decided to tell my old friend. I don't think whoever the fuck that is, has perfected this yet. I think this presence, this idea of being completely plugged into a world is in beta. The Burger King is an icon, an advertising icon, one that Zigga lost to Crown, one that has symbolism for a lot of people in this industry in a lot of different ways. But the main thing is that the king doesn't talk or even move his mouth and eyes. You are trapped in this other vessel that has limitations that I think are being worked out. It's like I can feel it all, and everyone else in the environment knows me, like is about me, about my dreams and desires. But it's like my talking module hasn't been installed yet, like it's a new reality with only one side of the communication figured out. I took a breath. That's all a fucking guess, dude. Well, either way, that doesn't sound sexy, Feng said. And I was happy he was cracking a joke, even if it really wasn't a joke. That's another thing, man. It's not a sex tape. Feng looked at me, almost glaringly, but not quite. It's maybe sexy, but it's far more romantic. It's like we'll always have Paris. It's a lure, a romp, a seduction to something. Bigger than sex? Whatever it is, whatever Zero's up to in this experience is not really sexual. She wants you to come somewhere with her, to follow her to your wildest dreams or something. This actually came out of my mouth as I was realizing it. Not pre-planned or even conscious. Just one of those things where your communication and your thought are integrated. Finding something out as you say it is like deja vu backwards. How could it know so much? How could it be so real and so personal to you, visually, emotionally? Feng seemed legitimately confused, but all of a sudden curious. I wasn't sure I totally wanted to say this. I wasn't sure why. No, fuck that. I was totally sure why, because maybe I thought it was true. Maybe I thought Zero was in love with me, or Jacob, or someone the fuck was in love with me. It felt like that. It felt like something I shouldn't share. Like when you're in love for the first day or week or years maybe. But when you feel just sick to your stomach all day, like you're about to give a giant speech, but it's in front of all your friends and you're gonna kick ass, and so you're just warm and excited about everything, but you can't think, you can only feel. You can only feel things like sunshine and see things like humans and grass and spiders doing webs and also being in love. That weird ass secret but shared fucking feeling was in me right now, and I was scared to give it up, but I wanted to keep it real. It might have been real, Feng, I said. What? I've thought about this a lot, all night really. Me and Cowboy Elvis and Andy Warhol. And there's another option that I think might make more sense. I looked over at him. I wanted him to not care, maybe not even really hear me, so I didn't have to bring it up, but he looked at me with the opposite intention. Maybe it's like a stage, I started. Like a shared environment that people are, inside of and controlling in real time. Feng was nodding. And you go in this roller coaster cart, this ride carriage called the Burger King, and you're in an environment that is based on an AI created in real time by you, basically, and the people you encounter, they are real? They are controlled or occupied by, actors? I don't know, but I think they're real. People are really in there. Feng slammed 2 fists down on his desk, and his little hologram people shook and glitched out for a few beats, becoming wiggly lines of abstract static and then settling back into perfect little video people. And I was like, fuck, this is it. This is where he's going to ask me if I thought Zero was really inside there, luring me on to love and the great beyond. And I would have to tell my old friend, absolutely, yes, I do. And I'm in love with your wife, and I, for some reason, made out with your father-in-law. And well, to be honest, Feng, I really liked that too. But none of that came to pass. Feng hadn't banged the desk in anger of realization of what my wildest AI dreams of romance came to be. He had banged the desk because he figured something out. It was the late-night advertising burst of inspiration when, for some reason, this thing that had been itching the fucking back of your brain every night, being a dream in which you had the answer, in which that creepy, crawly idea you had in the back came to the front. And as soon as you open your eyes, it disappears. It retreats to the back like a baby not wanting yet to be born. And then suddenly you slap it on the bottom and it cries, and you bang your fist on your desk in triumph. You've borne through the idea. Eddie, Feng said. Motherfucking Eddie. And Feng doesn't really curse. Eddie? I asked, because I was astounded we weren't talking about my selfish ass. And then realizing that I knew who he meant, I asked again, Eddie, Eddie? Eddie's song, Feng said. We need to go to a galaxy party. Okay, I said. "21. I'm done with the East," Sophia said. I wasn't even sure what that meant. We were walking along the high Rockaways, looking out over the Atlantic, and the beach on the low Rockaways below us. They had created basically another Rockaways on top of the old one. It was always strange to Sophia and I how New York didn't really discover waterfront property until the new millennium. It's like the waterfront used to be dead fish and hookers and scallywags and one-legged sailors, and it was the low ends. It was the transportation hub, the port authority of the oldie times. The fucking docks. It's what property flooded and where the enemy attacked first. Cut to highways and trucks and drones and Google trams. I'm sure they're taking over soon. And the waterfronts are open space, not for business, but for pleasure and leisure and all the things about living. A space for you to contemplate the ocean as CB2 backdrop, not a channel. Just an animated presence for you to forget all the things about working. Sophia and I had discussed this many times back in the day, back when we took the A train to the end and walked to Reese or 108th Street right across the street from the projects. We were walking above them now. They were covered by skyscraper islands, walkways, and parks and retail and restaurants that lived above and looked down on the old waterfront buildings of the low Rockaways, some of which still had a view, none of which had any sunshine. You could see the long stairwells down to private beaches, glass elevators for some resorts, and always the winding electric cart roads, twisted and turned on each end of the high rocks, spurring many a controversial spill, husbands and or mistresses having met ill fates, with the occasional solo flight off the spinning circular staircase of a road, an accident perhaps, until the financial disaster hidden for so many years is revealed to turn a spin of fate into a purposeful spin of the wheel. Yes, those high Rockaways. Those high rocks, where Sophia chose to spend her last day in New York, with me. I'm not sure I get it, I said. You're done with the East. When did this become a geography issue? I stopped at an outcropping where people could hang out over the steel, shiny railing and see the sea. I leaned against it, turning my back on the big water. I'm going to unplug, she said, pushing the hair out of her eyes to look at me. How do you mean? We're all about machines out here. I feel like I can't separate. Even the way that I'm trying to do good, and she air quoted the fuck out of that, is all about collecting information, creating experiences that maybe people want, that maybe explain or help to create some more empathy in the world, right? Fuck yes, I said, knowing that she is talking about her experiential work. Getting money to make some of the highest end virtual reality experiences that have you carry a jug down a jungle hill, fill it and bring it back up the hill, something the wives in Central America have to do 6 times a day. You become cops and firemen on a treadmill and tap into the experience, maybe pass out halfway up the hill, feel the sacrifice, empathy. Anyone learning a lesson here? Yes, honestly. I thought they were, we are, we do from all this shit, from everything Sophia Rule has always been about. Like when she created an experience with a woman and her daughter hiding from a sniper in a burned out building. That shit was sick. I mean, sick and heartbreaking and crazy and stressful. And you show that to a couple CMOs and CEOs and the gazillionaire boys club at places where they gather and they make it rain and things change, I think. But it doesn't really work without connecting everyone to everyone else and collecting all this data on everyone, Sophia says, not totally meaning it. I'm not sure what she's about right now. Data that says don't waste your time on this. Do this instead. Save 4.7 more lives. I was stammering around a bit. I don't know why she's bailing on her main jams. I mean, if we can only save one life, what the fuck? Isn't that the measure? Doesn't your data save lives? Aren't you doing the thing? I'm asking, always trying to devil's advocate her own doubts, not even really caring what I think of it, if I think anything at all about any of this. I'm just not sure I like where it's going. Any of this. It's a feeling, Dick. She brushed her hair out of her eyes again. A really, really strong feeling. I usually act on those. One more time with the hair swipe and her eyes up at mine. As you know. A Calypso band from Bayside starts playing Big Pimpin' at an outdoor barbecue festival nestled into a fancy outdoor food court. Order on your own phone, drone, drop-off, live music, la la la. It's right across from us, and the steel drum bing-bong of that track certainly works as a shitty Calypso band cover. And it's strangely nice here in the high rock, sea breeze through your hairs. Why are you going west? I asked, like an ultimatum, like I don't understand still why this would be about geography. They're into new stuff, or old stuff, or going back to where machines made sense, you know, she said, asked. Silicon Valley? They're done with machines, I said, asked back. Computers, Sophia said, the Calypso band hitting the part of Big Pimpin' that sounds like Miami on a speedboat, echoing through the High Rocks complex. They like machines, but they don't like networks. No more ones, no more zeros, no digital. Electricity is revered, but for a lot of people, the information society is over, or needs to be. Sophia looked tired. Who the fuck is giving up on information? I said, totally in fuck you mode, in like, what are you talking about, strange motherfucker mode. I'm in with some people who aren't totally above board maybe, she said, not kidding. Okay, I said, in a way that made me sound ready for anything, but was wondering if she were talking about the same kind of outlaws that sell raw cow milk on ice chests at the Santa Monica Farmers Market. It's not serious, you know, except they are serious. I mean, you know, fucking hippies. Sounds like mega fucking hippies. Catalina, Sophia said. The island? Yes, she said. Has anyone even thought about that place in the last, I don't know, for a million years? They've always been anti-shit there. Able to keep a whatever-free environment so close to one of the biggest cities in the world it makes it interesting. What does? They've quietly gone totally and completely off the grid. Sure. Sophia got quiet in a strange way. It's gone. It disappeared. It's not on Google Maps. It's not in the census. It has no digital register. You can see it on a super clear day from PV or maybe even Redondo, but it doesn't exist. I was starting to understand what she was saying. I could understand how, if you couldn't auto-correct a place and find your way there on your phone, that it would cease to exist. Just stop being. Even as you were looking at it from a place that did exist on the map, the multicolored real-time lines on your screen, those were what mattered. The misty, inconsistent, existent island that no one ever went to or cared about were like the European boats, more like floating islands when they washed up on the American shores for the engines. What the fuck is that? They couldn't see it because it wasn't in their cosmology, because it wasn't on their map. Same with Catalina. There it isn't, sneaky like a dark silhouette, crouching in the Pacific behind the misty smog, behind the marine layer and peeking its head out now and then to see what's happening. But it wasn't there, it didn't exist, and no one could see it. They run on gas now, Sophia told me, still telling me like it's a secret. In the way you tell a friend of a friend at a neutral bar about the best fucking party you know about currently. They think oil is the way to keep people off the network, the safest way to power a community without risking being hacked, without ever having to become information. Shit, okay. I was understanding, but not sure where to take this worldview. They discovered a vein of oil under the island, underneath the kelp beds, and they had to kill all the otters and sea lions to access it, but they decided it was worth it to get unplugged. Sure, I said, wanting to hear more, listening to the next jam kick off in the echoey confines of the High Rocks food court complex. Is that Calypso Beatles? Something? Now they live alone, isolated, a community that runs on electricity alone, fossil fuels. Burn something real and make power. No more subfusion, no more nanominers and trollbites. I thought you hated all that shit. We all did, she said, but it's gone too far the other way now. We're in a new reality and I'm not sure we have control of it. Let's get back to the basics. To build a fire, right? Your favorite. It's every story, isn't it? Isn't that the great paradigm? I said. Try to use technology to live as long as you can before nature kills you. From Prometheus to Prometheus, no? I think technology is about to kill nature, Sophia said, getting some more wind across her long hair, flitting about her eyes. And we might just be caught in between. And the calypso vibrations bounce around the mammoth structure, straddling the low rocks and reverbing off the high rocks. Something in the things she shows me. I don't want to leave her now. You know, I believe in how. I'm not going to argue because I have no argument. I changed the subject, pushing it toward something she's helped me with, the way in which she affects the world, my world at least. You were right, you know, I told her. There is no way Lucas did the Burger King sex tape. Who cares? She doesn't ask. Then she does. Why do you care? Old friends, I told her. They were our people, and now they're coming apart at the seams, it seems like. I'm not sure you recognize that has always been happening. It's the state of things. You've maybe just been too wrapped up in your own shit to notice. Thank God, I said, not really meaning it, but not wanting to just eat my whole life in front of her. She stood there staring at me. I turned for some reason, looking back across the big water over the old projects, the low rocks, out across the Atlantic, the smaller ocean, the little guy. The short hop from Europe to the Americas, from old Western civilization to new Old West. Not enough water to stop the cycle, to end the march forward in time and geography, not like LA, where Western culture went to die. No way to get across the Pacific and maintain an ideology or identity or anything really. A portal, distance becoming a difference, jumping into another world, so the West is the end. Or Sophia Rule, ex-partner and the smartest person I know, is headed to get to the beginning again. Can I tell you something? I asked her. She nodded. I tapped back into the sex tape after you told me to check out how advanced it is. I did. I talked to Lucas. I didn't find out much other than what you told me, of course. He didn't do it. So I went further. I felt like I needed some more answers to give Fang or myself. And? She asked, to be polite, more than she was interested. You were right, obviously. It's like nothing I've ever made before or anything I've experienced before. And I was staring at her, leaning against the rail, the Atlantic crashing below me, trying to figure out how she was going to take this. I mean, it wasn't really virtual or even digital. It felt like electricity. I was in it. It was real. And I think Zero was there too, like actually there. Uh-huh. She was unmoved. It wasn't even sexual. It was romantic. She looked at me hard, the wind picking up her hair and pulling it back like a curtain, revealing the dark stage of her eyes. Did you fall in love with her again, Dick? What? I was incredulous. I shrugged my shoulders, held my hands out. In Cannes, when we were all there, me, you, Luke, Zero, she was showering you with attention, kept pulling you off to go do this or go check out this party or let's go on that yacht. She wanted you to herself and you fell for her. You fell in love with her. I watched it happen. We never did anything, I said, still incredulous, but it wasn't totally working. You didn't have to, Dick, she said, not even caring about making this point. I don't really blame you. I think we were all in love with Zero back then. It just wasn't fun being your partner after that. We didn't last long anyway. Her and Luke's first sex tape came out when we got back, remember? You must have been bummed. That kind of blew everything up, huh? I guess, I said. I couldn't outright admit that she might have been right, but this time it gets weirder than that. What the fuck, Dick? It wasn't Zero at the end. It was like she transformed into, it was her dad. She made the Joker face that's on that crazy clown on every tank top at Coney Island. That weird, I'm emotionally vapor-locked smile threat. I just kept talking. It was Jacob Zigga that I started to have sex with. Sure, Sophia said. The Calypso band had finished their Beatles cover and were moving on to Sweet and Dandy. And Sophia just stared at me, starting to slowly shake her head. I heard a big wave crash behind me. But I stopped, right? I was using my hands to speak now. The ocean seemed to be roaring. I remember wondering if she could even hear me. I tapped out because it felt like if I went any further, I could never come back. I raised my hands above my head like Lucas Ray at a chapel in the 3D printed New Bedford. I would be in there, I don't know, forever? And Sophia Rule, one of my favorite people on the planet, just looked at the ground. She was done looking at me. So unplug, Dick, she finally said. Get out of all this virtual bullshit and come west and get real. Sure, I like that advice. I like that she was even giving it to me still. But I was in too far and it was too real and fucking weird and innovative. Is that right? Either way, I couldn't stop now. I needed to know more. Can I ask you something? It's important, I said, dipping my head down a little, trying to catch her eyes, get my voice low and under the wind and the waves and the gentle calypso. She was sweet and dandy, sweet and dandy, sweet and dandy. And I asked her, what did you see in the sex tape? You tapped in. You're the one that told me it was different than other experiences you knew. What did you see? Sophia looked up at me. She was done with this shit. It does not matter, she spoke deliberately. What? Of course it matters. Why wouldn't it matter? Because, motherfucker, she spoke through her teeth. It's not real. None of this shit is real, Dick. Get the fuck out. And the smaller, softer ocean, the crossable one, the one that used to carry culture, not thwart it, crashed again. And that east wind picked up the calypso vibrations and carried them across the high rocks, over the low rocks, and back across the city and out over the land, stretching to another sea, a bigger, bolder, rawer ocean, out west. Sweet and dandy, she was sweet and dandy, sweet and dandy. 22. Eddie Song was employee number 1 at Fang Co. Before Jacob Zigga bought it from Fang, when it was still just a video shop inside a container store underneath Golden Palace Mall in Flushing, Queens. He was a friend Fang knew from school. He was apparently a coding prodigy. He knew his way around an algorithm. Fang mainly used him to crunch his videos to get more and more and more into every frame, light, simple, beautiful code. But as far as any machine was concerned, these videos that Fang Co. put out weren't really there. So when the Zigga agency bought the small but successful, at least in Queens, Fang Co., people were a little skeptical. One of the hottest ad agencies in the world is buying a tiny video production house from this whiz kid named Fang Ho from Flushing. The insiders, those smart people at agencies that you never actually know, the ones when you hear their name you nod and you're like, yeah, I think I know who that is, but you don't think that. You know you don't know who that is. And it's those people that circulated an idea that rippled through the industry when Zigga bought Fang Co. It was that Jacob wanted this genius kid, this algorithmic video cruncher, the number 1 employee, Eddie Song. I met Eddie a few times, but that was years ago, back in the early days at Zigga. He wasn't involved in any of the work we were doing with Fang, making videos, then into holograms, and eventually ended up virtual. Fang backed off around that time, and Eddie kind of just disappeared once everything went into world creation. Jacob Zigga really took over at that point and made his daughter in charge of creative, Zero. But Eddie was barely around even in the early days. They kept him like Laszlo in Real Genius, in a hidden door in the closet down in a tiny lab room, like being inside a World War II tank with a keyboard and a Mountain Dew. And all these magical codecs came up through the floorboards like twisty, turny numbers crawling up from the tiny lab out of the closet into Jacob's eager hands. But you'd see him now and then. He was cool, good sneaks, always a fresh lid, a kid from Queens. He didn't talk much really, but he'd slap your hand and listen to what's up, or let's get together and do a thing. But I don't know if we ever did. And by the time I was coming around making virtual experiences for Zigga, he was gone. Didn't see him anymore. I really didn't see Fang much either, not until recently, not until this Burger King sex tape situation. Fang never dug the virtual business. I just like screens, Dick. He would say, I'm not ready to let go. Even holograms, that's just a screen with a curved line. And I would laugh because it's really kind of true, but it's funny when you say it out loud. But he always got worked up about this point, maybe more than I'd seen him get worked up about anything. It's something to watch or maybe interact with, but it's not something to be, you know? He was passionate. I just want to be this. This me standing here. This. Yes, I like to watch cool shit. As me. Play video games. Also as me. I don't need to be Lancelot or a caveman or a fucking mosquito in the Nirvana video, he would often say, sort of winding himself down. And so it made sense that I was in another Google tram, flying on the invisible rails from Zigga Penthouse to Flushing, Queens to go to a galaxy party by myself, without Fang Ho. Coogee had gotten me the tram once Fang had convinced me I needed to go to a galaxy party and talk to Eddie Song about whether he made this Burger King sex tape. I asked Coogee if I could make one stop first, and that was to see Sophia at the High Rockaways. I wanted to see her before she made her long, strange trip west. Catalina? Did not see that coming. But Coogee was cool, and I got to say goodbye to Sophia, and then, boom, there was another Google tram ready to take me to Flushing, where the parties are thrown. Fang had suddenly been convinced that the only person that could maybe do a virtual experience, as I was describing it, was Eddie and his galaxy party. I heard of them before, but more in the way you used to hear about furries and cosplay orgies and shit like that. It was like being anything you want to be party in any part of the galaxy. It was like totally immersive World of Warcraft for super, super rich people, but they weren't fighting. They were dancing. Like Studio 54 meets the restaurant at the end of the universe. Like electronic ayahuasca parties where the drug was on the outside. So basically, fuck off. I'd never been. Nor had I ever been invited, so there you go. But now I was on my way to one, without Fang. He had bowed out, said he wasn't interested. Of course, I knew that. And maybe since I was his freelancer, I could continue to do the legwork on this, and at this point, I'm just trying to figure out for myself what the fuck is going on. Fang had told me something before I left, though something that also might play a part in why he wasn't attending this particular soiree. I had asked him how someone like Eddie could afford to throw these parties, to create these worlds on his own. If it is anything like my Burger King experience, I can't even fathom what that would cost. Eddie probably had some money from the Zigga days, but not that kind of money. Fang seemed completely unfazed by my comment, like he was expecting it. He has a patron, a backer, so to speak, Fang had told me. Yeah, I guess so. Dude must be a bazillionaire, I had said, or something along those lines. Yes, he is. You know him. That's my dad. The Tupperware salesman? My father-in-law. Fang had dropped it on me. I stammered for a second, thinking of Zero, and thinking of that kiss. Jacob fucking Zigga throws the galaxy parties? Indeed. That's fucking weird, Fang, I had said, standing in his office, looking at the stark but slightly bemused face of my old friend. It sure is, Dick. It sure is. 23. I was winding my way down. Way down. Under a Chinese mafia hotel called Golden Luxury Resorts, under a Golden Palace Mall, under a lawyer's office that helped refugees find work and was also run by the Chinese mafia, under the sticky buns and cakes or meat cakes of certain things that looked delicious but you weren't sure if you were supposed to eat it before or after dinner. Hanging ducks, of course, noodles, like a world of them intertwining with the pipes and the drippy mossy spots on the wall somehow getting in there too, and knowing it was fine, all part of the program. Going down now, just pipes. A few teenagers making out and smoking cigarettes in old storefronts. A few storefronts still occupied like the newsstands of yesterday's news, and a fruit stand? An electronics store with cords and Sony guts and wetness. Smells now, and even lower I went down. It started to smell like it might be the earth we're in now, not in walls of concrete dug with smashing pylons to create a space and fill it with man-made concrete to keep the bugs and earthy things from getting inside. This felt below that, the underneath of the underneath. Like the air they pump into Pirates of the Caribbean that smells like musty treasure, like caves and swarthiness, like the walls are alive because they are. And then I came to a door, a Das Boot door, from an ancient submarine, creaky and groany looking with a big metal wheel for a doorknob right in the center, and I stood, hearing the drip drops echoing like a bad virtual horror experience, just not that scary. And the wheel starts to turn and it sounds creaky and groany as the door itself moves, its thick metal mass pushing gravity and waves at me, and the door opens. "Hello, Dick!" It's Jacob Ziga. His Steven Pinker hair cascading in silvery curls down to his shoulders, his David Lee Roth pink splattered tights wrapped tightly around his skinny legs. "I was wondering when you would show up at one of these, events." "Yes, events." He laughed, the opposite of Lucas Ray, not outward and big, but snickery and nasal like Jackie Rogers Jr. "Hi," I said, feeling slightly demure. "Please," he said, extending a spindly arm out, inviting me inside, a few tassels dangling from its small James Brown cape. I hesitated for a second, just feeling that feeling, just a gasp inside your soul, the feeling you're being taken to a place you can't get back from. Fuck it. "24. I step through the submarine door and feel the buzz. That tinny electric ringing that locks me into presence, into being right here. Jacob is leading me down what looks like the back of a warehouse on the edge of a cool neighborhood somewhere. The walls are vibrating with a thickly reminiscent drum and bass metalhead's thump. Boom, da-dum, ba-dum, boom, brrr. Throttled through bad plaster walls as we stepped over amps and stands and assistants with headsets. And I realized we were backstage and at some kind of show, some jungle show, me following again, electric, bouncing along with Jacob Ziga. "The very peculiar thing is," Jacob says, perhaps reading my mind, "everyone chose the 90s. I understand instantly. He's talking about this party, what it's supposed to be, as we wind along the thumping backstage walls, his silver curls bouncing along with them. "You most likely were expecting a cosplay fanboy sword and sorcery fuckfest, yes?" he asked, not even speaking loudly, but his voice seemed to pierce through the pounding noise, like we were connected, like we had headsets on, like a quarterback taking plays in the huddle through his helmet. I just smiled. Jacob continued, "When everyone can be anyone, anywhere, it's good to have consensus. Like Reddit's empty canvas. You start out all over the place, anger and lust and destruction, love, greed, ecstasy, and it's really amorphous, just balls of gas swirling around. It reminds me of the planet Jupiter. But no one has any way to connect, no common thread to pull them together, and it's a mess, really. So things start to take shape. Consensus is built on what we should be, where we should be, establish some ground rules, so we all don't just float away in our bubbles. So much I would say dust in the wind. But it's rather more like being stuck in traffic on the 405. Not much going on but the sound of your own music, you see." We were getting closer to the music, moving closer to the beat, Jacob still leading me along this winding backstage maze. "So you start to pick a form, a super dick space ranger, a diamond centaur, a shimmering angel no one can touch, or perhaps a slug sliming around begging to be stepped on. Sure, these things happened, I should say," he says. "But then you generally fall into place. You realize that the galaxy in the party is the party. Not where you are or who you are, but the party itself. The, connections. The world you create together. Invisible, really." He casts a sideways glance, sort of mumbling the last bit. You get more freedom out of just being here as you. So much more to do, so much reality to take in, to change, if you don't have to change your own. Do you see, Dick? Are you following? I'm following, I say, stumbling around over gear and backpacks and a cart full of speakers. It felt like we were getting closer to something. And so we all started to be ourselves, and things got easier. Freer, you understand? Jacob is looking back at me, really tracking to see if I am taking any of this in. Hard to say, really, but I'm still getting signals from the QB, electrically transmitted. Too much cocaine and money in the 80s made everything, silly, really. No? We are stopping now, reaching the end where the backstage meets the stage and the music is much louder and just craziness. We are in front of a black curtain vibrating in the beats. Jacob is talking to me and I'm hearing him tinny but crystal fucking clear. So when you're choosing these things, unconsciously, I guess, collectively, really, he sighs. Ancient Rome comes up. Too much vomit. Disgusting! He looks over at me and I understand what he means. Vomit equals disgusting. Or you get 100 Cleopatras with asps up their asses. He smiles smart and beguiling. Cavemen, hair pulling, masturbating with a stick. He taps his fingers lightly along the billowy curves of the black curtain. That party is over fast. Or you could do the future, but no one knows what that is. It's like floating in space away from each other, so you're right back to that amorphous crush of individual dreams with nothing coming true. Nothing connecting. Do you see what I mean, Dick? Jacob is beginning to run his hand along the curtain now, caressing its folds, preparing for a release, like Barnum, maybe Bailey, perhaps Ringling 1 or Ringling 2. Either way, I do know exactly what he means. I can't help it. So you start to move closer to things, the fin de siècle. Surprisingly boring. Still Victorian, really. The Roaring 20s, drunks. That's not dancing, people. War, no good fun there. And the 50s is like the Flintstones. Right back to hair pulling, honestly. Jacob's silvery curls were like wisps of smoke swirling around his head. I began to feel like I was on the perfect drug, not from the outside, but like a filter around me, a way of seeing. No, that's not quite right, a way of being. I smiled. The 60s were just getting warmed up, too innocent. Jacob was starting to peel back the black curtain, the drum, the bass, banging on the door. Now the 1970s, we're starting to really get into something here, letting bodies fall where they may, minds too, really. Jacob smiled at me. I felt like we were smiling together, the same smile, like particles living the same lives across the universe. And as I was saying, the 1980s were silly. Everyone knows this. Oh shit, I'm starting to get it now, to really feel what he's saying. I know what he's closing in on. It's pulsing through my body. Much like the 70s, but with better stimulants, the same music with more electricity, no? It was a time to leave the fleshy prison, but never leave the dance floor. Jacob is about to swipe that motherfucking curtain, and of course, shit. I knew all along what party we were at, so we decided, all of us, after so many galaxy parties, he continues, where we wanted to be, as ourselves, a time and place that would seem so outrageously inane if everyone weren't having such a lovely time. Motherfucker, I am thinking, buzzing, charging, connected. And Jacob Zigga pulls back the big black curtain backstage at the warehouse party and he screams out onto a twisted, swirling mass of dance floor like Twilo times the Matrix, fucking body paint and black lights and glitter and sweat and mentholyptus. Also embarrassing if everyone didn't agree to just fucking go with it. The 90s, he says. Motherfucker. "25. Jacob takes me by the hand and leads me to the dance floor. We squeeze between the pounding bodies, his silvery curls and bombastic tights disappearing and reappearing as he slips between contorted, spinning limbs and closed, sweaty eyes and wide denim flaps slapping about our legs like a vintage car wash. I'm coming up on a big buzz, and as I look around, it feels like everyone is on the same wave at the same height, and I've done my fair share of drugs, but I've never seen a dance floor all at the same peak. It's like we were pumping ecstasy into the air, controlling it, making everyone come at the same time, tight and simple, like on a dial. I love it. It's a great groove if your dictator is benevolent. Jacob lets go of my hand and does a spin, holding his arms in close, brushing up against the bouncing bodies. I start to spin, to shake my shoulders, to unfurl my arms in snaps, in step 1, 2, step 1, 2. It's all individual parts for a moment. Each one, I can sense and seem to have to change my focus. You, arm, go. You, leg, kick, step, left arm, snap. But then, they start to hit. The boom, 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 gets in there. Snaps the left over to the right, step 1, 2, and then the focus starts to fade. The directions cease and only the music guides their movement. The fleshy prison has been escaped. I'm lost somewhere up in the hi-hat, in the tinny beats, at the very top, where you can float and look down on all the other boom, leading the people to victory on the floor, telling their own story, beat by beat, through their bodies. And Jacob grabs my hand again, and I can feel it like a tingle, like a soft whisper into a feathery microphone. I open my eyes, still moving, still free in the beat, but looking now, and honestly, not surprised at all, just happy. Just unbelievably happy. Happiness, not an emotion now, but a wave that rips and keeps crashing on my shores. And of course, it is not Jacob that is holding my hand, staring, speaking into my now open eyes. It's Zero. I want to show you something, she says, perfectly clear through the roar of music. She begins to gently pull me, and I gush to one side and then the other like a boat going down a narrow canal. Zero now my gondolier. And I try to answer, but my mouth is stuck in that way on ecstasy sometimes when you can't really talk because feelings are too good and you try, but then you're like, why? I really only need to talk when I'm in pain. Talking is the sound of pain. This is a realization that sent another rush of happiness around my being. So I nod just like I had with my big plastic Burger King head on, but I don't. I touch my face, my lips with my free hand. No, I don't have it on. Zero points up, and I see rising out of the floor like a black monolith with a booth on top and a vague figure with a baseball hat and headphones bobbing and spinning those beats. Zero keeps leading with her gentle tugs forward, and I keep following. Let's go see the DJ, she says. Yeah, let's go, I say in my head, to the beat. 26. Dick! Eddie's song sees me as I walk up to him in the DJ booth. He drops his headphones to his neck and hugs it out with me. It's warm and real and soothing like a soup dumpling. And yes, I know Eddie. He could certainly pick me out of a lineup, and we probably had a couple drinks together, maybe blew a line, maybe staggled home in the blazing, piss-soaked streets of Brooklyn while everyone else was going to work. But it's been a minute, and he's rocking it like we were out last weekend. All good. I like it, actually. What's haps, Eddie? I ask as we release, looking each other up and down. I can speak now, like the ecstasy dial was turned down slightly, allowing words to form. I see Zero, having led me again where she wanted me, slipped through a black door with no knob built into the back of the booth. VIP, I'm guessing. Check that out later. Oh man, throwing parties. That's the haps. He opens up his arms, swinging them over the crowd like, can you dig it? Like Cyrus. And the crowd screams back, yes, they can dig it. And he tweaks a knob, looks back at me. You, what about you? I'm the freelancer on this project, I tell him. We both laugh. Man, fuck all that. Eddie puts a hand on my shoulder. Advertising? For real? I thought maybe you got out of that game a while back, brother. Dag. Yeah, well, you just gotta keep doing what you love, Eddie, that's all. Are you saying you don't love to party, Holmes? Eddie asks, and really, I am not saying that. Not sure what I'm saying. The music pounds. We're trying to make the whole world a party. The whole thing, Dick. One giant party. Eddie starts to bust some more knobs, tweaking this and that. And I can't tell, like most DJs, if there's anything actually happening or not, if any of his movements mean anything. Or is he just listening and twisting knobs like a dance every DJ does to someone else's music? What? Who's trying? I asked because I felt like he was talking about a real project, not just an idea or crazy exaggeration, all in the tone, I guess, these things. Me! We're trying. Jacob. Zero is in too. Eddie looks at me, asking me to follow with his eyes, like I've seen these fucking eyes before. And it's almost like he's confessing. He's telling me he did the sex tape. But all of a sudden, way more than that. That's what we've been up to, bro. Serious as fuck, man. Just turning this whole situation into a party. All of it. The whole fucking galaxy, Dick. The whole thing. He looks up as if to the stars. Here in his monolith tower DJ booth, 90s kids in or outside of their bodies, inside a fake version of themselves, making it more real, all railing on the same train, bouncing it out below. Yeah? I say and ask, feeling dizzy, but the good dizzy. Yeah, Eddie says, not even a little ask, looking at me now. You want to come with us? You want to turn this party out, inside out? What? I'm confused now, a little, or maybe not confused at all. What are you asking me, Eddie? You want to come along, man? Help us turn the party out. We all think you have something, man. You make good worlds. You know which reality to go with. Maybe it's just natural, bro. Eddie's just talking now. His last bro almost an effect throw on, the last real thing he said. It seems like all these motherfuckers want to take me somewhere. But it always seems like we're already all there. Zero, I ask. Yeah, man. Yep. Jacob, he says, I'm definitely working on it too. On what exactly? I ask, buzzing a bit. Turning this whole fucking galaxy into our party, know what I mean? I did know what he meaned. I think I've been trying to turn the whole world into my party the whole time. And this buzzy, controlled, underground 90s jam out full of people who could be anything but chose to be this, to be here, to be now. But is it your now, their now? Did you give it to someone else? I just didn't get from Eddie's vibe that he meant parties, really. It felt like he meant everything. He sensed me spinning out. So check this out, Dick. He's pointing to his gear, his knobs, and his switches that are sitting on an old wood block. This is my mom's cutting board. I stole it from her kitchen, her real ass kitchen up the road in College Point, behind that old Target. Yep, I knew that neighborhood. She used to cut the heads off chicken on this bitch right here. Real as fuck. Cool, I say, nodding along. So when I started throwing these galaxy parties with Jacob, these motherfucking parties where a motherfucker can be anything in the world that make a reality. You follow? I nodded, sure. You gotta have something real. Something that plugs you back in. Eddie tapped on his old wood cutting board. So I stole this from my mom's kitchen. Real as it gets, huh? Is he asking? Yes, I think, but I'm not totally sure. I feel great. Just listening to Eddie sounds right, all right. The music, too. So I steal it, and I bring it to the studio, and I take a knife, and I carve into the bottom of it. I carve my baby name. The nickname my mom's used to call me when she put me to bed at night. That special name. Only me and her share. I'm nodding full on, loving it. He's He's so eloquent. I'm not sure I had a special baby name that only my mom and I knew, but I'm not Eddie Song, am I? And that's what keeps me connected, bro. Keeps me all plugged in and shit, you know? He's looking out over the crowd, flicks a switch, busts a knob. When you're controlling the party, you're controlling the reality. Eddie flips his headphones back on his ears, looks ready to do something more to the music, but first turns to me. And when you get lost in that sauce, when you're flipping too many channels, that name carved in that real wood right there from my mom's kitchen, that shit keeps it real. He slaps me on the back, and I feel it reverberate, bounce around my insides, tinny like electronic feedback. Kick it in the back, bro, all good. You're one of us, dick. The seamless black on black door opens, the one Zero went through, the VIP door. And Eddie Song turns his attention to the crowd, looking down on the dance floor, tickling his gear, controlling the party atop an old cutting board with a baby name carved in the bottom from a real-life mom, kitchen, up the road. It felt good to know all these things, and I didn't even really think about it, but just walked through the seamless door into the VIP like the world was mine. "27. Where is Zero?" This is all I can think as I enter the VIP. It's a small room, built-in couches, turquoise blue and orange, circular and small bar in the corner with a small bartender. And then around the rim, lounging like crocs on rocks, sat a ring of influentials. Old and unconcerned about showing their power because they had it. "Good morning, Worm, Your Honor." They were like the judges in the wall. They were holding court. Sitting in the middle of the judges, a gregarious and loquacious Jacob Ziga has his silver curls bouncing, neon tight so tight, arms flailing as he disseminates an opinion from on high. Perhaps this was his 90s? Either way, I was looking for an exit I could not find, but not to exit. To discover, for the life of me, the life of everyone perhaps, or so it would seem by the way people are carrying on these days. Or at the very least, the reason I am here. Where the fuck is Zero? "It's like wigs on words," Jacob shouts out to the old judges. "Like little words wearing wigs and acting for you. Thee and thou and thee and thou. Shakespeare wasn't creating a reality. He dressed up his words, put his ideas on stage and gave them little wigs and had them prance around." Jacob made little T-Rex hands and did a little prance dance with them. The judges seemed not to notice, really. They were looking, but not with interest. It was almost as if Jacob were doing it for me. I tried not to blush. "Pictures aren't things, they're just words. Visible ideas, Chinese characters. We're so fascinated with pictures when they only limit what is possible. Pictures make ideas smaller. Screens shrink every idea." Jacob is hitting his notes. I'm just going to nod along with this. I mean, I think he's right. It all feels really good, and dude is on a roll, you know, hanging out with his old advertising cronies. You have to let a man talk to his people with confidence, right? "Film is like an emoji that hides what's possible from you. There is no possibility on a screen, only dead ghosts of ideas. Reality is what's possible. It's the only thing. We make realities, not pictures of it. That's the future, my distinguished comrades." He ended almost quietly, settling back into himself, taking his seat amongst the ring of elders who grumbled now, like the bankers at the end of Mary Poppins. But mainly, they were signs of general agreement. "Let me ask, dear boy," a rather aged judge sort of kick-started his voice to life, "what is the margin on reality creation?" He put the question to Jacob. A hoarse, rumbling twitter rose up from the circle of elders, the judges having themselves a type of laugh, maybe the only type that was still healthy for them to undertake. And I felt my own smile begin to curl up at the corners, still rushed with energy and warmth, still scanning the room looking for another seamless door, another place that Zero could have disappeared to. Didn't seem possible. And then, bang, 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 and then another bang. Gunshots, 4 gunshots, coming from the DJ booth. They were muffled slightly by the wall, but even the old men knew what the fuck this was. This is reality creation right there. "28. The door opens. The buzz is high, whiny now, and the ecstasy dial has been turned so low, it's like Black Tuesday. The day after you did ecstasy, the darkest day, the price you pay. Everyone is frozen. In the middle of the galaxy party, everyone occupying themselves, being themselves so hard in their jacked up reality they didn't know what to do when the real came knocking. I didn't either, but I faked it. I was the closest to the door, so I just took a step towards it, peered in, somehow unconcerned about what I would find, like when Obi-Wan dies. Eddie's song was lying on the ground, headphones askew, hat pushed back and blood coming from his guts, and oh shit. Looks like he took one in the neck. Dead. Eddie's dead. The music was still banging, but the dance floor was frozen too, and all I could hear was that tinny ass buzz way up in my head, putting me here or trying to break me out. And I look over knowing who it is going to be. Shit, yep, it's Fang. He's holding a gun, an old like 38 or something, and I'm making that up because I know nothing about guns, but it is literally smoking. I'm not at all scared. I step inside the DJ booth. Time is stopped, like the girl, the gold watch, and everything. Like a bad video effect where the frame is frozen but the 2 principals are still moving around. "I stopped by my dad's container store," Fang says, reading my mind, holding the gun up a little bit, maybe feeling its weight. "I don't think he's ever used it, but New York was a rougher place back in the day." Ha. Fang chuckles, shrugs his shoulders a bit. Everything moves very slow, suspended, this strange space we're in. I can't tell if this is the party, the simulation, or did we break it? It doesn't matter. "Fang, my brother, are you telling me the DJ did it?" I ask him, trying to make a joke, but wanting to make conversation in our time bubble. "Eddie made the sex tape. I know. I know about it." "No, Dick." Fang looks at me. There was no buzz all of a sudden, nothing distorted or tinny about his speech. "Eddie didn't make the sex tape. He made Zero." Dun, dun, dun. Fuck, shit, what? I don't even know what this means. Fang just keeps talking like a hummingbird's beating wings of a confession in this small sliver of space-time we seem to have. "Zero doesn't exist, Dick. She never has." "Dude, what are you talking about? How do you know all this? I'm just barely slipping words out of my mouth at this point, maybe mumbling, not sure I'm even really speaking actually." "It's Chinatown, Dick," Fang Ho says to me, and I see just the slightest, coolest, realest smile I've ever seen start creep around his mouth when all of a sudden the buzz comes back hot and full of static, and time is kicked back in, and people have become unglued. A bunch of them smashing into the DJ booth, knocking over all Eddie's gear, wresting the gun from Fang's hand, and he's dragged out of the booth in a violent swoosh of action. I'm alone. Well, I'm standing next to the dead body of the DJ, and I find myself in that crevice of time again, that nestled cocoon where the world takes on different meanings, gives you glimpses of itself. And having been bum-rushed back into the corner, I see where the gear has fallen, the boards, the knobs, the switches. Now on their side, like a kicking cockroach on its back looking to get its worldview flipped around. And next to the technology, the old wooden cutting board, that base of reality that Eddie kept with him during the galaxy parties, kept him grounded like the spinning top in Inception. It has also been knocked over on its side. And I see the name now. I see the whole fucking thing. How it all came together, all of it. And it just snapped my ass right into place with a big jolt of electricity. It was his baby name. The one his mom called him. Their secret name. The one he carved into that wood, making it real, plugging him into something every time he created a new galaxy. I saw it there in the wood, hand-carved. A little uneven, but strong and defined. Real as fuck. I mean, come on. You know what it is, right? Yeah, that's right. Kuji. "29. There are people in hazmat suits lying on the asphalt, still squirming all over the car lot. A preacher, visibly shaken, leans against the side of a shed. He is flipping through his Bible, searching for answers, which is a nice touch. I am lying on the ground too, next to my girlfriend and Light and Bud, who has a bandage around his head, wounded, lying in Light's big black arms. We are all staring at the car, the one that was on the road in the beginning. It's completely green now, glowing, pulsing an unnatural green, not just from the trunk, but the entire car is bathed in this green energy. And then I see Miller. He's walking across the car lot, ignoring the squirmy hazmat suit people. He walks right through them and he goes straight to the glowing green car and gets into the driver's seat. His eyes light up and he puts his hands on the wheel. He turns his head and looks me right in the eye. He raises a finger and then curls it back towards himself, repeating the motion, beckoning me to come. "But you don't know how to drive," I say to him. He just continues to beckon. I have options. But the green glowing car and Miller seem like the right move. I take it. I start to lift myself up off the asphalt. My girlfriend's hand falls off my shoulder. She's not happy. "No, don't go," she says, but it's already receding, sounding like her voice is down a long tunnel. I can hear, but it doesn't affect me anymore. "What about our relationship?" she asks, sounding so far away it maybe doesn't deserve an answer, but I give her one anyway as I pick myself up off the ground. "Fuck that," I tell her, not even looking back. I hear Light give a big black humph of agreement. "You shithead," she says. "I'm glad I tortured you. I'm the one that's supposed to be in that car." She has more to say, but it's behind me. I'm moving now, walking towards the glowing green car, and I can hear the plugs. Reel 10, as I step into the passenger side and close the door. The eerie twangs of the guitar. Old West, but also New West, punk mariachi, lifting the car up now. Miller's hands on the wheel. He's in another space entirely. And I look down as we rise. The hazmats have also risen. They're standing in the car lot, waving frantically for us to come back. The preacher is blinded by the green light. Bud and Light, still holding on to his wounded amigo, both give me a thumbs up as we shoot out into the night sky over downtown LA, zooming between the skyscrapers, and then up and out into the stars, headed for another galaxy. I tap out. 30. So they wanted a giant Mountain Dew logo to appear like the moon over the skyline of LA, but I was like, no fucking way, man. Dick, the freelancer, will kill me. So I took it out, the editor said. My man, I said as we slapped hands. You got the giant green car, just like everything else in this experience, powered by Dew. That says it all. But we can throw an art card at the end too. Big ass logo. Let's just keep it out of the experience. Especially at the end, right? 100%, the editor said, using the old slang for yes, I agree. Cool, that's pretty much it for me then. I'll be moving on to the next gig soon. I gave the editor my usual last day wrap-up line. Well, it was a pleasure to work with you. I'm glad you came back to finish this up after what happened to your old friend, to Mr. Ho. the editor said, not really sure if he should be talking about this. Well, you can't choose your old friends. I wasn't sure if I was talking about me and Fang or Fang and Eddie. Both, I guess. And those are strong ties. Makes you do crazy shit sometimes. So it was that Eddie guy who made the Burger King thing with Zero in it. He used to work here, right? The editor was just curious. If you work in the industry, I'm sure you would be too. It's interesting shit. He did. And he and Fang were old friends, and Eddie decided to fuck with him and his wife and his business, and Fang didn't like it. So he's gonna do the time, huh? Yeah, pretty sure. He's got the cleanest record of any New Yorker ever, so he might not die in there. Crime of passion and so forth, I said. Not sure if I believed it. Fucking Fang, come on, man. Jacob and Zero went on sabbatical and just disappeared, which makes a billion sense. Get the fuck out of Dodge. I just went back to work because I don't actually know what else to do, and none of this was about me, was it? I'm just the freelancer. The Zigga agency is still going strong, the editor said, letting me know he was going to be okay in this whole ordeal. It's like, well, same as it ever was. There was a buzz in the room. The editor spoke out loud. Rasheen, hello! Hello, sir. It was a different executive assistant speaking in the air. Rasheen, I guess. Not Kuji. And they sounded completely different. Still, I got the chills when it first came on, scared with anticipation. There is a message for the freelancer, Rasheen continued. Dick, looks like this one is for you, the editor said. I'll take it, thank you, Rasheen, I mumbled, sitting on the couch in the editing suite, having a forward deja vu this time. I opened it and was taken by surprise when Sophia Rule was staring at me. She must have recorded this in a hurry. It was dark, unnaturally dark, but I could see her and her eyes gleaming like they were trying to reach me to break through something. The message was very simple and short, and it changed everything in an instant, and I never thought about what to do. I was just going to do it. Dick, Sophia said, I need your help. So, that's easy. I'm going west.